Call the meeting to order at 6:30. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Trustee Pierce,
Present.
trustee Masek,
Here.
trustee Peterson,
Here.
trustee Bluthart,
Here.
trustee Berman,
Here.
trustee Dominiac,
Here.
Mayor Gardner.
Present. Next item is the approval of the December 8th, 2021 Committee of the Whole meeting minutes as presented. I entertain a motion and a second, please.
So moved. Second.
Motion trustee Peterson, second trustee Bluthart. Oh my gosh, trustee Berman. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Masek.
Yes.
I'm sorry, was that yes or pass?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bluthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion carries. We had originally some officer swearing in tonight that we continued when we could have the meeting open to the public. I will, I believe, turn this over to Jeff really quickly to announce that we have the names of the new officers who will be in here to be sworn in. I believe they came to Village Hall for the to be sworn in, but we'll do a ceremonial swearing in here at a meeting coming up. So, Jeff, do you want to do any intro?
Yeah, real quick, Mayor, if you don't mind, thank you. Allow me the opportunity to publicly acknowledge a couple of new hires that we have to fill some currently existing lateral police officer vacancies. As you mentioned, we had originally planned to have these two new officers publicly sworn in this evening to kind of put a name to a face for you guys. But the pandemic had some other things in mind for us. So although you're not able to meet them tonight, I just want to take a moment to tell you a little bit about each of them. So we have First Officer Peter Lesney, who comes to us with 9 years of policing experience. Prior to entering the policing profession, Officer Lesney had earned his bachelor's degree in justice studies from Northeastern Illinois University. He joined the Chicago Police Department in 2012 and served as a patrol officer for 3 years before being assigned to various specialized units, including the Area North Saturation Unit, the Gun Task Force, and most recently the Vehicular Hijacking Task Force. As an added highlight, Peter is also able to fluently speak, read, and write Polish. His decision to leave the Chicago Police Department was mostly based on his interest of wanting to provide a better life for his family. And he's placed his focus on joining the Antioch Police Department after experiencing the welcoming and family-focused environment our community offers, while he had the opportunity to spend several weekends over the last several years at his parents' house on Lake Marie. So he's very familiar with our community. His wife and his two children are currently actively looking for a new home in the area. Then we also have Officer Amanda Macco, who has joined us, and she comes to us with a little more than 5 years of policing experience. After graduating from high school, Officer Macco went on to earn her bachelor's degree in criminal justice with a minor in sociology from Northeastern Illinois University. She began her career as a sheriff's deputy with the Lake County Sheriff's Office back in 2012. After spending nearly 4 years in highway patrol, she was reassigned to the Detective Bureau in criminal investigations, where she specialized in cybercrime investigations. In late 2017, she chose to take a little break from service to start a family, and then made the decision to ultimately return to law enforcement in 2001, working part-time for the Richmond Police Department and the Wonder Lake Police Department until being hired by our department last month. Having worked with the Sheriff's Office in District 4, which, as you know, includes much of Antioch, she became familiar with the area and knew Antioch would be a good fit for her to continue her law enforcement career. She currently resides in Richmond with her 2 young children. So when you have the opportunities to meet these individuals, I think you'll be taken aback, as we were, by their professionalism and their character. And just take a second to say hi to them when you have a chance. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And again, thank you for those of you that know or do not know, the police force had been hit by COVID, so they had to scramble, and everyone covered for each other, including the chief working night shift. So again, we appreciate you guys for keeping that all together. Usually we'll do citizens wishing to address the board. If there is a specific item, I know there's going to be people for item number 2 regarding the hours of business for establishments that sell alcohol. Instead of having them address the board now, I would rather have them address the board during the discussion. But if you are online and you wish to address the board, please try either raise your hand or try and find the button where it shows your hand raised. And Jim Moran, who is operating the Zoom controls here, will let me know who we are calling on next. So the first item on the regular business for the COW meeting is item number 1041, Officer Wellness and Screening Program. We have a presenter, Tim Perry, and I'll let Chief Gutchow do the introduction.
Sure, Your Honor, thanks once again. This comes before you more as informational reasons to kind of highlight the newly established partnership we now have with 1041 Inc. For many of you, I had early discussions when I was appointed to the role of chief, and one of my early goals was establishing a wellness program in the police department for our officers. With the encouragement of Administrator Keim late last year, I began to explore how we as an organization could begin the process of prioritizing our officer wellness within our organization. This challenging task requires us to culturally move away from the age-old expectation within our profession that as police officers, we should be emotionless, stoic law enforcers that we've all seen portrayed on TV. As we move away from that depiction of police officer, it is my goal to work towards establishing a new culture that embraces the fact that the men and women who make up our police department face situations every day that endanger their health, safety, and at times their lives. As anyone would expect, this often results in a cumulative negative impact on an officer's mental, emotional, and physical well-being. And unfortunately, within the profession, there's a long-standing culture that has led officers to believe that following a traumatic event, they have few other alternatives other than get up, dust off their pants, and get back to work like nothing happened. There's been a systematic failure within our profession to teach and prepare police officers how to better manage these traumas. In fact, many experts believe that the inability to effectively manage these stresses created results more effectively from the trauma is a contributing factor why we continue to see the high number of police officer suicides within our profession year after year. Just back in 2021, for example, we had 154 nationwide. There's no doubt in my mind that our police officers are currently working in what may be considered the most challenging policing environment in modern history. Helping us to ensure that we're taking care of those who protect and serve our community is where 1041 comes in. In addition to many services they offer, they provide expedited access to professional and confidential wellness care, such as crisis care, on-scene and post-scene counseling, and critical stress management debriefings, as well as providing in-house resiliency and wellness training and access to peer groups for both our officers and their spouses. So now I'd just like to turn the floor over to the president of 1041, Reverend Tim Perry, who's going to take a few minutes to tell you a little bit more about his company and what they offer and what they're going to bring to our community.
Thank you, Mr. Perry. Still on, Jim? Yeah, I did see him earlier, so maybe he dropped off. Okay. Jeff, do you want here? Why don't I do this? I will continue with the cow business, and then if Mr. Perry comes back on, we'll let him discuss it then. If there's any questions of the chief at this point, otherwise we can move to item number 2 and come back to this. All right. Thank you. Item number 2 is discussion regarding an ordinance amending section 4-2C-4 of the Municipal Code of Antioch regarding hours of business for establishments which sell alcohol. Again, please, Chief Gutchow.
Myself unmuted here. Okay, thank you. So as you recall, this matter first became before the board back at the December meeting. At the time, staff had proposed a change to the on-premise liquor sales hours for Sunday night into Monday morning business day, with that proposal being to roll back the permitted sales hours from the currently permitted 3 a.m. to the requested 2 a.m. That was in order to assist the police department with their staffing deployments a little bit. This would have brought the Sunday hours into the pattern established during the remaining days of the week, where sales within the village are generally permitted to take place 1 hour beyond the hours established within unincorporated areas. If you recall, under the current ordinance, they're allowed to be open on Sunday into Monday at 3 a.m. when the unincorporated area is currently closed at 1. So there was a 2-hour discrepancy, which deviated from the standard 1 hour additional time that they were granted on the other 6 days a week. At the time that was initially discussed, the board expressed an interest in revising the village's on-premise liquor hours to be more in alignment with the established hours of unincorporated Lake County, which requires a closing time of 1 a.m. on Sunday, as I mentioned, through Thursday, and 2 a.m. on Friday and Saturday, as well as reducing the number of holidays that extended sales are permitted. Following that direction from the board, the draft ordinance was revised to reflect the closing hours that are established for unincorporated areas that surround us. And that matter is now back before you for further discussion.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I'll go back to that. I think I'm gonna do this this way. I think I'm gonna go around once with the trustees to say their piece. Anybody who is here in public that wishes to discuss this item, I'll call on that group next, and then one more time around for the trustees to discuss this. So I will start with my order. I'm out of order here. Trustee Pierce.
Thanks. I should have stayed home. I've had some time to think about this since we were last discussing it. I understand the reasoning for changing the hours to match up. And I understand that there may be some concerns over what happens later in the evening. But since that time, I've gotten to think about it. And if we have concerns about what's happening later in the evening, maybe we should be addressing those with the individual bar owners instead of going after all the bar owners by changing policies and making things happen earlier in the evening. So I think maybe we should be looking at our liquor enforcement that we currently have in place instead of making it a little bit more onerous on the other bar owners. So I'm not really in favor of going forward at this time with this unless things get worse, which they're not. They've been working for 50, 60, 70, 100 years. So,
Right.
But there were some other trustees, such as Trustee Masick, who spoke very eloquently on this, and I'd like to hear from the other trustees.
Sure. Trustee Masick, comment?
I brought it up so we can discuss. I'm about commerce. I'm about, this, sales tax pays for police officers, everything else. I brought this to get it to the table, to the floor, so we can discuss. We've got I'm not opposed of not changing it. I'm not opposed to anything. I'm just looking at, we've got uniqueness with factories, Fisher Paper. We've got factory second shift. We've got factories that are surrounding areas that have second shift employees. We've got a couple different places that may be selling alcohol, and theirs shuts off at midnight. And it's a great time to discuss, well, if they want to get 40 tacos after work and get a 6-pack of beer and sit home, they can't, because they can't get it because everything shuts down at midnight. So I wanted to bring this up for, let's be fair to everybody. If they're going to be open till 3, we got to look at the whole picture. And, we've got one gas station that's put quite a bit of money into revising where they can sell, liquor, which is the Shell station. We've got other stations, and from my understanding, if someone gets there and a couple, it's more of an argument, why can't you sell past midnight? And I'm sure the bar owners get the same thing when it's a shut-off time. So I'm not opposed to anything. I'm just opposed to, let's be all fair on this thing. I don't know, I never looked at what Lake County, shut-off hours is. We got a new gas station that reopened up on 83, which that gas station sits in the county. If the county is going to allow gambling machines in a gas station, well, we're gonna have gambling machines in a gas station right on the border of our village, and we're gonna have no control in it. So to get better control at it, I'm just looking at what's fair for everybody. Everybody should have a shaking hand and be fair for everybody. So that's kind of where I was going with the whole picture. Let's be fair with everybody. We're in a situation where we've got a whole bunch of things with, we've got a lot of crime happening we've got cars, we've got someone shooting out windows with guns. We've got cars getting stolen. We've got cars getting broken into. We don't have enough police to go around. I'll make this right now that we've got to ask everybody, maybe it's time to get cameras in your houses. I've been an opponent that we've got a park.
All right. Yeah, I know. I appreciate it. I just want to stick to the liquor portion.
I
now.
understand, but this is all germane to the liquor. This is all being fair to liquor. We're stretching our police officers. And I understand you don't understand where I'm going with this, but this is all germane. We can't have police officers, looking at cars, breaking into cars and babysitting everybody. So it's all germane. So if you don't think it's germane, it's germane. So I just want fairness to everybody. We want a police officer patrolling our neighborhoods at night. We don't want to sit there and babysit, what's going on at just like Trustee Pierce said, we got a certain people that might be not following the rules, and we got problem situations, and they got to be babysitting rather than out there protecting our cars, controlling the people that are shooting people up. It's all germane. So that's why I said everybody's got to get fairness. So you may not think it's fair because you weren't shot at, but your car wasn't broken in, but it's all germane. We want police in every corner, and it's all germane to this conversation. So that's where I feel it's all germane to this conversation. So I just want to look at fairness for the hours. I want fairness where police can do their job without sitting there babysitting everybody. So I'm on the same side as Trustee Pierce.
Thank you. And Trustee Peterson.
Thank you, Your Honor. When we were talking about changing the hours, there were certain things that I didn't realize at the time. And it's been brought to my attention that when a bar closes down, it doesn't just at 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning or even 1. They don't just, okay, everybody go home. It's more than an hour process. It's closing tabs that could take 40 minutes, 45 minutes, depending on how many people are there. Cleaning up the bar as they go, last call. There's a lot to go into closing down a bar at the end of a night, especially a busy night. And if we were to change those hours and close the bars earlier, we're not taking just an hour away from them. We're taking more than that. And it's a whole process that we have to look at, we have to look at it from their standpoint, not just ours. That's what my point is. And there were a lot of points brought up to me just recently, and I agree with them wholeheartedly. And as Trustee Pierce said, Antioch has been doing this for a very long time, and it's worked. And I do agree that if there is a bar that is pushing the envelope and stretching the rules, then that bar needs to be accountable. Whatever the village decides, I believe the mayor's the liquor commissioner, whatever that punishment is going to be, should be enforced on that bar owner and not every single bar owner in this town that has been doing the right thing and following the rules and making sure that in the minute that they're supposed to be closed, they are closed. And people are ushered out the door. And I'm just saying that I'm for leaving the hours as they are. That's all I have to say, Your Honor.
Thank you. Trustee Bluthart?
Yeah, I mean, I've looked into this a little bit and kind of agree with everything that the other trustees have said, more or less. But the one thing that I would strongly say is that I looked at your survey that was presented along with some of the background information, and it shows that in other communities around us, the consumption off the premises sales are the same hours as on premises. So that would be something I'd be interested to rectify, kind of what Trustee Masek stated, is put them on equal footing with the being able to go into an establishment and buy carryouts or so forth. In regards to the actual closing hours, you know, I understand the business side of this, but I'd really like to, you know, this is an issue where I kind of fall with our police chief and the police. If they believe this is something that is going to improve safety in Antioch, or they have numbers to back that up, you know, or if they believe this is something that will allow the officers to patrol other areas differently or do something with the shortage of officers as we have, then I'm willing to consider it. But that would be the primary reason, would be just public safety. And if the police believe this is a really, really strong idea to change it. But in regards to that, I would like to, if we do make a change, I would like to see us alter the consumption off premises hour to equate to the same sales hours as the on premises facility. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Berman?
I too have thought about this and I've gotten some feedback on it. And there were multiple points that were brought up that I've never been a barn owner. So they were things that I hadn't thought of that were brought up. And once hearing those, you know, I myself didn't realize how much goes on within that last hour. And I feel that if we were to cut their hours, I think it's going to devastate those bars and those small business owners. And they've survived through this pandemic. This entire time they've been able to float their staff, and for us to be the determining factor that makes that crumble, I don't think that it's right. Now, on the other hand, you know, I do value, you know, what our police chief has said, and I understand why they brought this to the board. I do think that we need to look at these problems that are going on in each bar on an individual basis and try to understand why, if it's a reoccurring thing, we need to try to understand why that keeps reoccurring. And as far as the on-off premises, I do think that we need to find we need to make things balanced with that.
Right. Thank you. Trustee Dominiac?
I have no comment.
Okay. How about hands on the Zoom call? Do we have participants in the audience? Oh, yep, Chief.
I very much appreciate all the feedback from the entire board, and I am very comfortable with where you were going and appear to be going in your decision making. The only thing I would ask you to consider is that you may consider the original language, which rolls back the hours on Sunday night. That really does impact our staffing and our deployment strategies. Becomes much more difficult for us to staff and fill overtime vacancies in the midnight hours. And an hour may not seem like much at first hand, but really does become a challenge to cover between that 2 and 3 a.m. window, often resulting in the day shift guys having to come in at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning versus being able to bring them in potentially at 4 o'clock under the staffing plan during the times that the bars are closed. Realizing that just based on sheer circumstances, the more people we have in town and the more activity we have taking place in town, there's going to be more of a incidence of police service calls for things, right? If businesses are open, there's a chance that we may have a problem, have to respond, and that requires us to staff it appropriately. So the hours have worked my entire career. I think the 3 a.m. on Sunday flew under everybody's radar up until recently when we denoted and realized a couple of issues at an establishment with this Sunday night going till 3 a.m. and kind of being contrary to our staffing strategy. So if the board, please the board, I would ask that you consider amending the hours as originally proposed with a closure of 2 a.m. on the Sunday night into Monday morning.
Jeff, for clarification, I think that also it was the Sunday evening, but were there also some just tweaking on the holidays, or is that when that's the same?
Yes, Your Honor, there was some changes in the holidays. Those were brought into alignment. I'd have to go through, compare list by list of what it was, but there was a slight reduction in the holidays. But again, those are things that the police department can plan for. As long as it's a stated and documented holiday that things are going to be open, we can adjust our staffing plan accordingly. But it's happening on a reoccurring basis on that Sunday night is where we're truly running into some problems.
Thank you. I saw a hand from somebody in the audience, and then I'll go back around the trustees. Mr. Anderson, are you there?
Hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just, what Jeff said, I think makes a lot of sense. I've had a liquor license, you guys know, for over 40 years. And that, I never thought Sunday was, I don't know how that got written into the laws. Because we always closed at 2 on Sunday unless it was Monday was a holiday. And that was the old liquor laws from years ago. I don't know, they must have got rewritten 15 years ago or something. And that got put in because that was never in there before. That's just my my take on it. And actually, we worked really hard to make sure that we do not have problems. I'd like you guys to be aware of that. And I sent out a letter to all the board members stating some facts and stuff.
Thank you. I see another hand. Who do we have, Jim? All right. Next, Mr. Judge, can you hear us?
Can you guys hear me?
Now I can. Yep.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for this meeting. And I just want to thank you for considering off premises to kind of balance out. We're open 24-hour, and I think we're only one of the BP. By the way, I'm from BP on 59 and 173. We close liquor hours at midnight, and we also close the day at midnight. So we have issues where a customer would get in line at 11:55, and then we're closing the midnight shift or daily shift at 12. And that really pisses customers off because they are in the building at 11:55 and takes us 5 minutes, and then we can't sell liquor to them. So one other suggestion for the bar owner, if there's any particular bar having issue, maybe we can, somehow suggest them hiring their private security personnel if there's any issue with that, so that can help police department with that. But that 3 a.m. Sunday, I don't have any issue with that. I think 2 a.m. Sunday is fine, but we would like to be a little bit more than midnight at 24-hour location because people are fighting with us. There's employment shortage, and nobody wants to work that midnight hour because people fight and they swear and they threat and everything. So I just want to say thank you to everybody considering us.
Right, thank you. Anybody else, Jim, with their hand up? All right. Well, I'm going to go around the trustees again. So I'm going to start with Trustee Pierce.
I have a question for Mr. Gutchow. When you're saying Sunday 3 a.m., you're talking going into Monday morning 3 a.m., correct? You're not talking about Sunday, 3 AM when Saturday night's finishing up.
Yeah, correct, Trustee Pierce. So I think that is what leads itself into some of the confusion that we had with the ordinance itself. Everybody was under the impression that it was 2 AM on Sundays. As you heard Al say, he's been operating his business his entire career under that premise as well. Somewhere along the way, there was a change in the ordinance, and the language got a little bit convoluted and a little bit confusing to understand. So I think with some cleanup language, we can make that clearer to everybody. But again, yes, I am speaking of the Sunday night into Monday morning, so they would close at 2 AM on Monday morning versus 3 AM.
Okay. My next question is, this goes to Sonny if he's still listening. If we were to change your hours to 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock to match up to what the bars are doing, or 3 o'clock in the morning, would you still have the people who got in line at 2:55 AM and were mad because 3 o'clock rolled around?
Mr. Judge, you still on? You still there, Jim?
Thanks, yeah, mute himself. There you go.
Here it is.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Trustee, that would be actually awesome. 2 o'clock, no, that's not gonna be issue because there's no closing period between 1:55 to 2 AM because there's no shift closes. What I'm talking about, a shift closes that takes 5 minutes to close the day.
Okay, so what's being affected is the fact you're changing shift at the same time the bar is, the alcohol sales is being cut off.
Correct, yes. So customer would get in the line. Sometime it gets busy because, there's second shifter going home. They want to pick up the beer and go home. And they would get in the line at 11:53. And by the time we get done changing shift and take rest of the customer, it's 12:01. And now that customer has 12 packs in his hand. And he's like, well, here's, he throws the beer and gets mad because he was in the line before that. And now we have no control. It's automatic. We can't even, our system closes the shift automatically at 11:55. That's controlled by BP. We have no control over changing that to 12:10 or 12:05. You know what I mean? So we have no control on changing shift, but I'm just asking a favor. So if we could change that instead of midnight to 2 AM, that would actually make a lot of customers and our employees happier because they can, if they're leaving second shift and they want to go home at 12:30 and they want to take 12 pack at home and drink and enjoy, that makes them happy.
Okay, so this ordinance changes that are before us, does this have any changes in it that address the gas stations?
No, it's subsection B relates to the off premises, which is just says 6 AM to 12. So we would need to come back with amendment on that if we're going to make the times concurrent for the bars and off premise.
So if I'm hearing it correctly, we would need to change the off premises and roll back all the changes in here except for the Sunday morning 2 AM one.
Correct.
Would we be better off tabling this until those changes are done appropriately?
Yes.
And then bringing it back to the board? Or I can make a motion to table this until we have the appropriate changes made.
We're on the committee of the whole.
Okay.
Yeah. So we can make it and bring it back next time we could ask Chief Gutchow to make those changes and bring it back one more time for discussion. If that's the preference of the board.
That'd be my preference.
Okay. Trustee, you good? Trustee Pierce?
I'm good.
All right, Trustee Masek.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with Trustee Pierce. I think we got to make accommodations, because that's my point is we got to make it fair for everybody, everybody, and it's the betterment of Antioch. So, this is why I brought this up. I tried to bring stuff up for discussion for everybody, not to bring fear for everybody. And I get everything. So the whole point is, there's a lot of investment. Sam did it in the Shell station. He put a ton of investment. And the problem with these gas stations is, how many people sit there and take, 5 minutes to drive to Wisconsin, not me. I'll sit there and spend the money in Antioch because I think that's the right thing to do. And these guys need help because Lake County increased their taxes. So these guys need help, and any money spent in Antioch is a good thing. It's all sales tax money to pay for our police, public works, and any programs we put forth that doesn't go on our property tax program. So we don't have to juice the property taxes anymore. I think it's a good program. I think fairness to everybody, commerce is fairness to everybody. I think it's a good program. So that's all I would like to see, for whoever does it, whoever's got the license to do it, that's fairness to everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Trustee Peterson?
The only thing I'd like to say is I agree with Trustee Pierce. Let's rewrite this ordinance and leave the hours as they are, except for Sunday evening. And let's help out the gas stations and bring them into line. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Thank you. Trustee Bluthart?
I'd just like to see it, the wording and times cleaned up and make it all uniform between the off premises and on premises, and I would be happy with that.
All right. Thank you. Trustee Berman?
I agree. I think at this point where we're at, I think it's a healthy balance for everybody.
All right. Thank you. Trustee Dominiac?
I have nothing, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. All right, so Chief Gutchow, we will continue this matter, table this to the next committee of the whole meeting with a revision on the Sunday evening hours and the off premises hours.
Sonny's got his hand up for.
Oh, somebody's got a hand up?
Sonny has his hand up.
All right, Sonny, are you?
Yes, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, so, as Trustee Masick said, there's lots of our gallons are going to Wisconsin, by the way. I can show you the history. We used to do 175,000 gallons per month prior to tax went up back in July 2020. And now we're doing 98 to 100,000. So think about it, how much tax revenue is going to Wisconsin. So if you guys can help us, I was gonna bring this up later on, but since everybody's here, I would like to share that we also have planned to redo the station, and we would like to see if we can get some, support from the village.
Sure. Yeah. And Sonny, so what's happening now is it's going to come back to the committee, the whole meeting, not for a vote, for a discussion,
Yes.
with the changes to make those hours later for the off premises license and then changing Sunday. So
Thank you.
feel free to come back and join us for that discussion in 2 weeks. But I think we have a good direction on this based on the discussion from the board. So
Thank you.
without further ado, I'll move back to item number 1. Sorry, Mr. Perry, when I called on you, you cut out for a second. So Chief Gutchow did give us a background of the program, and we wanted to let you, give any other information if the board want to ask any questions, but I appreciate you coming back. So
good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate it. Is my volume adequate?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Yes.
Okay. Well, my organization was created to provide wellness and mental health care for first responders, and police, fire, dispatchers, and coroners fall into those categories. And so we provide counseling either by way of chaplains, that's a full diversity of chaplains, or board certified counselors who might be psychiatrists, psychologists, and even doctors. We train these practitioners to provide care to all the first responders, which is very unique to the rest of the world. As you know, we deal in death, we deal in tragedy and trauma. We just came off a Bradley police officer that was shot and killed. And so we had a lot of work to do, both from the counseling of the police department, as well as the city, and as well as the family that was involved. So our work is 24/7, and it's unique because we've trained our people to manage crisis on scene. And your department has men and women who have been serving for a long time, and we want to make sure they get the care they need 24/7.
Thank you. I'll ask the trustees if they have any questions or comments in the room. I don't see anything here. Anybody online? Trustee Masick, Bluthart, or Dominiac, do you have any questions or comments to Mr. Perry?
I do.
Okay, Trustee Masick.
So, great program. This does not, if they went to go see this program, this does not go on their record, correct?
Correct. We don't do case management. If they go see one of our psychiatrists for any kind of event, they'll use their insurance, and there may be case management there as well. But the reason why we exist is we can have on the spot mental health counsel. And if we need to take it to a higher level through post-traumatic stress and other kinds of depressions, then we have the ability to do that right away.
So any promotion that would be hidden from any promotion, anything, if they needed any type of help through PTSD. Because let me give you a background from where I come from. 10 years as a volunteer paramedic. And I'm going to tell you, my friend, I've got PTSD from all the little kids that died in my arms. Okay. So, and that's 20 years ago past, and I can still remember and smell every nuance of every call. I mean, that does not leave you. And we did not have that back on the Antioch Rescue Squad. And this is such an important factor. And I just lost someone that put a gun in his mouth over Christmas evening. So this is huge. I've been begging for a program like this, where the problem with most officers, they're afraid to get help because what it does, it goes on their permanent record.
Right.
They're worried about, I'm not going to get a promotion because I'm a Sally. I reached out for help, and everybody knows it. I'm scared, and it's going to diminish my career down the road. And this is a program, I hope, that eliminates that, and it's going to save some lives. It's going to prevent people from taking their lives or taking someone else's lives, because there's been a lot of problems where cops take their own lives, paramedics take their own lives, and hopefully the fire department would see a benefit from what you're doing and taking it over, and they may take the aspect, because there's a lot of bad stuff that people see that they shouldn't have to see.
Thank you, Trustee. I think your story was spot on, and that's where we show up. The paramedics, whether they're retired, or the firefighters, whether they're active, everybody gets care and deserves care. And so if it happened years ago, you still deserve to have the care. And we're pulling people off of ledges, from attempted suicide to discussions to depression. We're doing things so different and so quiet, so that everybody has a chance to live a healthy life.
Yeah, because I can still see, and I'll tell the story today. I can still see the 4-year-old little girl, blonde hair, blue eyes, that was looking at me that I couldn't save. I was the first one in the system that did an neurosteus, that I couldn't find that vein. And I put drugs down the tube, couldn't get her back. And it was just a dumb situation where the dad went and got a drink in a bar. She fell in because her doll fell in the water, and she fell in and drowned. And I couldn't get her back. And she's looking at me with those little blue eyes, blonde hair, and I couldn't bring her back. And that's the first time I sat with the doctor and I cried, because I sat there and drilled a hole in her bone and didn't realize. I said, I don't know if I got the drugs in her system, because I was the first one in the system that did an neurosteus. So, and the doctor took me back, and he sat there and showed me the fluids were going fine, because I couldn't get a jugular vein on her because she was that young.
The good news is, even those memories that you have right now can be managed to a better space. So I'm thankful that you were there, although it was tragic. I'm so thankful that you're able to tell the story now so that everybody else will know the importance. But I'm very grateful for your story.
Yeah, so you're doing good, and I hope this program kicks off. I hope it's a great program. And Anybody that sits there and says no to the program doesn't get it. Because there's people out there that need help. They don't understand. I mean, you know, I've seen 17-year-old kids that put a shotgun in their mouth. I shouldn't have to see that. And, you know, I've read the notes. I shouldn't have to read the notes to their parents, because that's the first thing you see that's laying next to the body. You know, it's just traumatic. So you're a blessing in disguise.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Did this program already start, or is it something that's starting soon?
We signed the contract with Mr. Perry's organization effective January 1st, and we're in the early process of getting the ball rolling to start moving in the right direction on this.
All right, well, thank you and welcome. And I think, again, I think there's any trustees that want to comment on that further? Trustee Berman? Yeah.
Oh, did Trustee Bluthart?
Trustee Dominiac, anyone have anything to say?
No comments on this at this time, no.
Okay, thank you.
I just one quick.
Yeah, sure.
You know, as far as trying to understand all of this, I think that there's women that go through similar situations, you know, as far as pregnancies, whether it be pre or postpartum depression. And despite the fact that, you know, we've known about that for a long time, it's still, I think, women have a hard time getting help for that. And there are a lot of nasty things that happen because they're not, it's not dealt with in a timely fashion. And I think that's sad. So yeah, I totally understand where all of this is coming from. And I do think that this is greatly needed.
Well, thank you. And thank you for coming on.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you guys. Thanks for coming back and waiting on the last discussion. Anything else, Chief, on that?
Nope, I just want to again echo Administrator Keim support in this. We couldn't have got this done without his help in driving the force behind it. So thank you.
All right. Well, we will thank you guys, and we will move along to item number 3, discussion regarding an ordinance amending Title 5 of the Municipal Code of Antioch regarding public health and safety. This is, I guess, for lack of a better term, what would be considered a rental ordinance. This is presented by Mr. Garrigan, and the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. Again, this matter comes before the board. As you recall, at last month's call meeting, we discussed the rental ordinance. I think there was a general consensus that the ordinance was really necessary based on some of the trends with rental properties throughout the village of Antioch. Some of the questions that the board asked was specifically what kind of fee schedule we would have for an inspection protocol, and then some of the questions concerns about staffing. So based on those expressed concerns from the village board, staff did complete a survey of some of the surrounding communities. A number of the surrounding communities have rental inspection ordinances, specifically Round Lake Park, Round Lake, Zion, Lake Villa, and Fox Lake. So based on that, we wanted to compare apples to apples. We did a survey. I did incorporate some information in my staff report. The inspections really ranged anywhere from $50 to up to $100. There were specifically also fees related to re-inspections. Most of the villages did add an additional fee for re-inspections, obviously. So if a property does fail a rental inspection, there would be a fee for a re-inspection, which is consistent with how we handle our building permit process. Some villages charge for applications, or what we call certificate of application. Again, this rental ordinance is what we call a certificate of compliance. So as drafted, every landlord will have to come in for a certificate of compliance for their units before they can rent those units out. So I wanted just to provide the information to the board as it relates to the actual fees. The other question was, you know, there were some concerns about whether we had sufficient staffing Obviously it doesn't make sense to pass an ordinance if you don't have the required staffing to implement that ordinance and complete your required responsibilities. So the first thing I wanted to do was, the first question is, how many rental units do we have in the village of Antioch? So what we did was a pretty comprehensive list of our larger multifamily projects. And we have approximately, as it relates to the actual multifamily units or complexes, this does not include a townhouse or a single family home that is being rented, but typically your apartments. We have approximately 970 units currently in the village of Antioch. I did list some of the larger projects for your review. So based on our current staffing, we believe that, again, because this is performance-based, because we won't do inspections until a property becomes vacant, we believe at this point that we have sufficient staffing on it, and if we do potentially add an additional code enforcement person, we'll have the sufficient staffing to carry out this ordinance as it relates to inspections. We foresee that the initial first year, obviously there'll be more inspections, because we would review, or we would inspect every unit in the village. But over time, those landlords who have properties that are well maintained, those number of inspections would decrease over the years. So we're hoping that over the years, in future years, the inspections would go down because more and more of these units will be comply with our ordinance, and they would not be problematic. So with that, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that the board has as it relates to fees or the inspection protocols. Again, we did review the actual ordinance at the last meeting. I'm not sure if there's any ancillary questions related to that, but again, technically this would be we would require a certificate of compliance for all landlords for each unit, which would give us an opportunity to inspect the unit. Obviously, before the compliance certificate would be issued, we would have an opportunity to inspect that unit. With that, I'll conclude my staff report, Your Honor.
Thank you. Trustee Pierce.
I think this is a good idea. Because I know at least one place, I had a friend who was renting an apartment and the roof fell in on them here in Antioch, I think we have an obligation to ensure that if somebody's renting a home, that they're renting a safe home. Other than that, I don't think that we can be a nanny state and force people to be anything other than safe. I don't think our choice in what a home looks like or anything can be our choice. It has to be the owner's, but we do have an obligation to make sure they're safe.
Sure. One item that I wanted to raise, especially for the trustees to bring up or to discuss, that was touched on, but I looked at the different villages that were listed in their inspection fees, and I look at the ones that are listed and which were most similar to us and which are the most simple structure. And to me, there's one town that has just a flat $50 per inspection fee, which seems to me to be the easiest and probably the most similar village to us, which is Lake Villa. So I just didn't know if there's any discussion on that as this is drafted to come to the board for a vote.
Well, I would continue my discussion then onto the fees.
Sure.
I would be fine with the $50 for each inspection as a flat fee, whether it's an inspection or a reinspection or continuous inspections. I would think as time would go by, we'd have to evaluate the program to see if we're actually covering the cost of the program.
Sure.
My other concern would be, are we going to phase this in? How are you going to handle, we pass this ordinance and you've got 2,000 dwelling units that need to be inspected?
Right. That's a fair question. I think that obviously we're going to have to break these number of units. Again, the first year will be the biggest challenge. So we're going to have to create a schedule that we can manage, whether it's 4 or 5 inspections a day. I have conferred with staff. We think at this point that, we have the ability to complete that. Again, hopefully most of these units will comply. So we're confident with our current staff and potentially with our new budget, with an additional code enforcement person, we would have sufficient staffing to at least address all the needs for the first year. And again, it's a performance-based code. So as more and more we address the problems, some of the problem properties, the number of inspections will decline over the future years.
And are you going to work with Ms. Moran to make sure that this is properly explained to our and our attorneys, that it's properly explained to the owners of the properties, what we're doing and what our plan-
Absolutely. Yeah, what my hope is to really, if there's support for this, and if this ordinance is approved by the village board, is to schedule some future meetings with the current landlords. I've actually had some meetings with current landlords and kind of giving them heads up that this may be coming. But to meet with the landlords, kind of outline our proposed ordinance, walk through the ordinance, the protocols. We want this to hopefully be the win-win for everybody, not only for the tenants, but also to work with our property owners and cooperate with them. And so we will reach out to all the landlords in the village and also get the general information out to tenants and through our Facebook postings. And so that's, subject to the village approve this ordinance. We'll proceed with that approach.
Sure. And I think one other thing to mention is I believe this was modeled similarly off the Zion's ordinance, which there had been some litigation, but that was modified. So we know that this is, passes muster. And as an aside, myself, Michael, I think Jim also met with the Realtors Association or board who wanted to, had some interest in what we were trying to do here and generally support this position as well from what we were told. All right, Trustee Masek.
I got a couple things. He rattled off a bunch of communities, and I don't know which one's home ruled and which one's not. So I just want to make sure, clear as day, because I get Zion's home ruled. So we say Zion's home ruled, they can do whatever the hell they want. We're not home ruled. We gotta kind of tiptoe through the tulips. So I don't want to end up in litigation. And when we go to these places and I get we're going to go into rental dwellings, and it's all about safety. I'm good for safety. And there's been a problem with apartment buildings, dilapidated. I get all that. And I just want to make sure that this is clear as day, that when we do this and we get the inspections, that we're not going to be dragged in and we're spending taxpayer money to litigate something. That's all I want to make sure, that this is clear as day. And I wish the attorney was here, because I know the Zion case, but we're clearly different because that's home ruled and we're not home ruled. And I just want to make sure we're 100% on par, that because we're not home ruled, we got the authority that because we're not home ruled, we can sit there and mandate, yeah, we're going to come in your place and turnover rent. We got to inspect your place. And I get what Trustee Pierce said. There's been some problem buildings for years in the village. And not only apartments, but there's also been, people renting homes with, that probably shouldn't be, lived in, with mold and whatnot. So I just want to make sure we're clear and we're standing on good ground.
Right, thank you. Go ahead, Michael. I know there is, I believe, I'm going to butcher this name. There's an attorney, Brandes, who's a partner with Mr. Vaselli or associate.
Yeah.
I don't know if he needed to interject, but he is, I believe, on Zoom. I can't see his picture, but
Sorry
I do know he's there. There he is.
Yeah, I'm here.
Hi.
My colleague, Cynthia Granfield was supposed to be on the call. She was involved in the Zion litigation, and she was going to speak to the issue of the legality of this. But we have looked this over, and we believe that it would satisfy the requirements of the Fourth Amendment in a challenge. And I have not had a chance to look at the home rule versus non-home rule issue, but I can look at that and report back on that at a future date.
That's my biggest concern, that we're not sitting there litigating home rule versus non-home rule, that we're spending taxpayer money. Safety is important, but I don't want to spend taxpayer money litigating.
Well, Trustee Mason, we did have that discussion initially with Cynthia about the different variations between home rule and a non-home rule community. So we made every effort to basically draft an ordinance within our non-home rule powers. So this is somewhat a concern. As you recall, maybe a year, 2 years ago, we actually did review an ordinance which was maybe a little more ambitious. And I think based on some of the direction of our village attorney, we pulled back for some of those powers. So this is a very conservative ordinance based on the current law. But as you know,
if
somebody
the
can
attorney
also,
can give us a guarantee, I'm good with it. If the attorney, because obviously he's smarter than I am. If the attorney can guarantee we're good with it, I'm good with it. So because we need to do something. Because
I believe Cynthia, we spoke her name and she appeared. So I don't know if you want to interject.
I'm like Beetlejuice, but different.
Yes.
well, you're better than Beetlejuice.
So you understand the concern is just that, again, if we pass this next meeting, that we're not, as a non-home rule community, not violating anything. That seems to be the consensus of concern.
Right. Like my colleague Vlado just said, first of all, of course, we tailored it and modified it so that it shouldn't be an issue under the Fourth Amendment. And then this should be something that would be allowed as a non-home rule municipality because it is a extension of your rights and powers with respect to public health, safety, and welfare that is laid out broadly. And this is just a further detail laid out broadly under the Illinois Municipal Code, and this is just a further detailing of it, so it should not be an issue. I don't want to ever say never, because you just never know what people come up with to object to, but in my opinion, it shouldn't, we should be good.
Thank you. Trustee Peterson.
My question is for Mr. Garrigan. Michael, did we look at parking for any of these apartment complexes? And I know the parking was addressed when they built them, but is the parking spilling out into the streets, and is there enough room? I know that there are individual homes in the village that are rented, and there are problems on the street with those homes with 5 and 6 cars for one house, and there's nowhere for them to go. And there are quite a few streets in town that are encumbered with parked cars all night, snow plows, that type of thing. They get in the way. So did we look at this for the apartment complexes at all?
well, I think we have a current parking ordinance, which is applicable to all units, whether it's single family or apartments. I think this, focusing on the condition of these apartment complexes, especially the larger complexes, to have an opportunity to inspect them, I think that'll give us a better opportunity if there's current violations of parking, i.e., are they parking on unimproved surfaces or violating our current ordinance? So I do think this will give, go ahead.
Could we put something in the ordinance about that?
Well, I can confer with the attorneys, and we can look at that specifically.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Bluthart.
No comments at this time.
All right. Thank you. Trustee Berman.
I do have a couple of questions. The first one is, as far as the apartment building units, are those units, are they sprinkled? And if that is required, is that a present ordinance that we have?
You know, some of these are, it's, you know, not all of them are sprinkled. So there, to answer your question directly, we do have apartment complexes in the village that were constructed and sprinkling was not required. Those will probably be considered to be legally non-conforming right now. So to come in and make them retrofit that might be challenging. Obviously, if somebody was going to do a larger new multifamily project in the village in the future, based on our current codes, it would have to probably be sprinkled. I've had discussions with the fire district on this. But again, to be direct, many of these units are not sprinkled, but the fire department does inspections on the alarm systems, individual alarm systems, smoke detectors. All those requirements are still in effect, and we do inspect. I know the fire department does inspections, and I think that inspection protocol, obviously, if this ordinance is passed, will be much more robust. And so I think this gives us a great opportunity to address some of the fire safety concerns that we may have.
Yeah,
Yeah,
of course.
So, you know, as I had stated, I believe it was at the last meeting, you know, I would be in favor of this. And of course, as long as it's not stomping on any constitutional rights, which we just discussed, that shouldn't be a problem. However, as Mike had brought up about making sure that if we pass this, it's not going to be counterproductive. We want to make sure that we have everything in place. So my question is, does the Village of Antioch currently have a plumbing inspector?
We interviewed a plumbing inspector today. As you know, we've been using a contractor. Our previous inspector retired. We actually had an interview today with an inspector. So I'm confident that we will have a part-time inspector, which is pretty much is the workload that we have right now. It's only part-time is required. So I'm confident that we will have an inspector in a very near future.
And then it's just one more quick question. So it would be part-time now for as it stands before anything's done with the ordinance. And then would that bring that contractor to full-time once these inspections go into effect for the units?
Well, again, if there is a plumbing problem or issue, obviously, if the scope of the part-time would require additional hours, then we would obviously take that into consideration. We don't foresee that in the near future. At this point, we're confident that it would just start with the inspections would start with our general inspector / code enforcement person. And then if there was a potential plumbing issue, then we would bring in more specialty or a specialization for that. But to answer your question again directly, there would be the potential additional hours would be required. There's also potential, to fulfill our necessary responsibilities. There's also potential for a full-time inspector for plumbing, but at this point, we don't foresee that immediately. Did that answer your question?
It did, yes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Dominiak.
Yeah, I think, Mike, this is terrific that you put a lot of work into it. I'm glad we got all our questions answered. We started this 2 years ago and it went nowhere, as I mentioned at the last meeting. So let's get this on the next agenda and pass it and make our community safe for everybody.
Yep. All right. What do we want to do about the fee? Are we okay with moving this to the board to the next meeting with the $50 inspection fee, flat fee? And obviously can be revised or looked at over time, but are you guys okay with that being inserted as the fee amounts? Anyone that is not okay with that? Otherwise, we'll move this with the $50 fee to the regular board meeting. All right, thank you. Thank you, Michael. Next, last item on the call is discussion regarding park board recommendation regarding pool and preschool fee increases. I believe we have Mary, Dawn, and Jim all on the line to discuss this. So thank you.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm with Supervisor Don Johnson and Director Mary Quilty tonight. The Park Board has been in discussion for the past 3 months about the Antioch Aqua Center and preschool fees for the next upcoming 2022 season. The Park Board has been discussing the impact of inflation, the rising cost of materials, the high demand of supplies, paying employees, and the overall cost of running the preschools and aquatic center. It has come to the Park Board's conclusion that there has to be an increase in both the cost of the passes for the aquatic center and the preschool cost. With this new increase in revenue, we're hoping we can overcome the rising cost of keeping the Antioch Aquatic Center and preschool successfully running for the 2022 season. We as a Park Board have approved this increase based on the cost with nearby preschools and the aquatic centers, the increasing cost of employees and overall cost of supplies and needed to keep the pool and preschools open. With inflation on the rise and the increase in supply and demand, we will keep a close eye on cost and make sure that the Antioch Aqua Center and preschool will stay open for the people of the community. Our parks mission is to keep improving the aquatic center and the preschool so that everyone can use and enjoy these facilities to their fullest. I don't have all the prices in front of me, but I know Supervisor Don Johnson and Director Mary Quilty, they do have the prices and they can answer a lot more questions than I can. But they did a very good job of getting back to us and showing us all the different scenarios they had for the pools and for the preschools with the rising cost of keeping employees and trying to keep them paid.
Thanks, Jim. And for the just for the record, in our board packet, pages 25 and 26 do show those numbers for the trustees.
Okay, great. Thank you.
The Mary or Dawn, anything to add before I turn it over to the trustees?
No, I think it's all there, but thank you.
Good. All right. I'll start with Trustee Pierce.
I hate raising prices, but as we all know, in this day and age, we can't even get a gallon of gas for under $3 unless we go up to Wisconsin. So prices of everything are going up, and unfortunately, we have to pay for what we got.
What for a question? What for everybody? What did the minimum wage go to January 1st? $12 an hour?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So I think that's my first. If we're raising prices, I understand why. I'm not happy to do it, but we have to be able to afford to continue to run programs and keep the pool open. I do have a question about the Camp Cran, and every year I think about this. Well, is there a reason that we continue to run Camp Cran, or could the private community do it better instead of the government doing it? Why are we involved in a preschool?
A preschool is not, we are not daycare. Preschool is just a 2.5-hour program. It is Camp Cran is a well sought after program. We have kids that are now coming, like when moms come to register, they're like, I was a Camp Cranner. So they're coming back because of the value that Camp Cran brings. It's a preschool program. It's 2.5 hours. It teaches we learn through play, whereas a daycare center, which we do not want to compete with, is daycare. So we fill it every year with over 100 families. So it is a needed and wanted service in our community.
I understand it's a needed and wanted service. Are we making a profit on it? Are we breaking even? Or are we losing money on it?
We are not losing money. We have just very dedicated staff that are, our lead teachers, Dawn, what do they make? 15?
$15.71.
A lead teacher makes 15. It's the love of teaching that keeps them there. And they are willing to work for 15. So we are not losing money. you know, we are very budget conscious. But with the rising cost of minimum wage, you know, you can't expect a lead teacher to make 15 when a sub that comes in once in a blue moon is making now 12.
I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of sad and we're only paying them 15 to be a lead teacher.
That's how fortunate we are that they teach for the love of teaching.
Okay,
They work for the love of teaching children.
thank you.
All right, Trustee Basic.
You know, we're in inflation. Too much money was put in the economy. We're a 7% inflation. You know, costs are going to have to go up with the pool. Parks are going to have to go up with the pool. We're going to have to raise their prices. It's just the way the world is right now. Not our fault. It's the problem with the economy. So Camp Cran's important. People count on that 2 hours. You know, 2 hours, and that's an asset to what the village gives. I'm all part of Camp Cran's important. You know, it's all part of the kids. Kids programs are important within the village. We give, you know, we can't be here taking people's money and not giving something back. That's an important feature. So, you know, even if it's a $2 loss, you know, it's something we're giving back. It's, you know, but we gotta figure out how to balance our sheet, and we just, you know, just like our water bill, you know, costs are going up. We got to start looking at everything and take care of, you know, 7% inflation. We got to sit there and look at everything, and we can't ignore and just ignore our bottom line and just sit there and say we're going to be in the hole. 7%. Everybody's got to realize that. It's unfortunate, but that's the world we live in. So I'm good with Camp Cran. I'm good with the parks. I think we should do more with the parks. I think we should look at giving, you know, the parks program's a great program. I think we just shouldn't take money and not give anything back. I think we don't do enough. You know, sometimes just the loss. People have to feel when in Antioch, they're getting something for the dollar spent. And that's a reason that they want to live in Antioch, because, geez, there's something to do in Antioch, except, you know, just live in Antioch and have nothing to do. So I'm good with every program the parks does. I don't think they do enough, but that's just my opinion. I think we could do more. So we just got to figure out ways that they can do more and accelerate.
Thank you.
Trustee Mason, thank you very much. I did have one more point to say that
Sure, Jim.
also gas prices, they've gone from 29 cents to 61 cents. I'm sure everyone got their gas bill. And to heat the pool is going to be twice as much this year than it was last year.
Thanks for the reminder.
Yeah, no problem.
All right. Next is Trustee Bluthart, please. Oh, Trustee Peterson. Sorry, I was looking at the board already.
No one likes to raise prices, but in order to maintain a staff, you have to pay them. In order to have parties safely, it says it right here on this list, you have a minimum requirement of lifeguards and pool manager, the cost of the payroll alone. As it was just discussed, that I'm sure not only did the gas bill go up, but I'm sure the price of chemicals are going to go up as well. And in order to run this facility the way it needs to be run, we have to raise the prices. And sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. So I'm all for what they've put down here, and I will support you.
Thank you. All right, now Trustee Bluthart.
All right. First of all, as a parent of 2 girls that went through Camp Cran, I support that program wholeheartedly. I think it's a wonderful program, and we're probably not charging enough on that for everything that you do for those kids. My only question on the pool rates, did you guys look at possibly increasing or looking at the non-resident rates going up slightly higher and keeping the resident rates down, or at the same level? Was that looked at? Or I mean, is there a percentage that, you know, of non-residents that are using the facilities that would make it more sense to raise their rates and not hit our residents with the increase? Or is that we have to, I'm assuming you looked at that and we're going to have to hit both, but would there be a way of doing it where the non-residents are taking the bulk of that increases?
Dawn could probably answer that.
Yeah, I did look at all those numbers, and only about a quarter of the people that do come into the pool are non-residents. And as much as I would love to do a non-resident versus resident rate, the hassles of going that way, especially for a 16-year-old that is the one that they're approaching at the window, people get nasty when it comes to that, and it's just a lot easier to charge the one fee. You know, I would say if either half or even 3/4 of people coming through were non-resident, absolutely. But it's only about a quarter, if that come through that are non-residents. It's mainly the residents, and so we would. I just don't. I don't justify it. I don't feel that we should have to.
Yeah, I figured you guys looked at it, but I just wanted to make sure. That was all.
But
no, I support your need for the additional revenue.
for pool passes, people that buy seasonal passes, we can make that increase a little bit more for those non-residents.
Okay.
Yeah, and we have.
Yep, it appears they are. Yep. All right. Thank you, Trustee Berman.
I agree with what the other trustees have stated, and I'd say much more on that. So as far as the inflation, it's necessary. We have to do it. So.
All right. Trustee Dominiak.
Thank you for this very thorough analysis and presentation, and I support this.
All right. Trustee Pierce.
Can I just get a definition of what the resident versus non-resident is? Because it seems like we have this discussion about every 2 or 3 years.
Between village, township, that type of.
Between
stuff.
village, township, Trevor,
Sure.
Lakevilla.
It's a good question because I don't know the answer to that either.
Zip code
Zip code
6002.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's fine. It's
That's, Trustee Pierce, if you remember, that's what we decided when the aquatic center was being opened up. We made the decision that anybody in 6002 would be considered a resident.
I understand that. I just wanted to make sure we reinforce that so we didn't have Mr. Shaughnessy in here in about 2 weeks going, what are you guys talking about? So I just want to make sure we're still on the same page we were back then.
All right, perfect.
I'm just giving the background for the people that weren't part of that discussion.
So I believe that this would have to come as a resolution at the next board meeting for the price increase. So I believe there's support for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't want to see any stickers with my face pointing at it saying I did that. So I just we'll move on. Get that passed next time. And I'm assuming this is for obviously the pool season, but then for Camp Cran, these would become effective next school year. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes,
Okay.
September.
All right. So these are not immediate increases. It's for the next year.
Correct.
All right. That's what I want to make sure. All right. Thank you.
Also,
That is finally
the
it for the
5%
cow.
increase.
Okay. Sorry, Jim.
There's a, it's going to be a 5% increase until the cost of, or the wages stop going up.
Okay.
Minimum wage is going up every year. So there's going to be a 5% increase every year until that levels off.
Okay. Makes sense. And is that built into this ordinance, like just for the next 3 year period, that increase?
Yes.
Yes, Don.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Makes sense. All right. Anything else? Any other business for the Cal meeting? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn in a second.
Moved.
Motion trustee Bluthart. Second trustee Pierce. Roll, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bluthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiak.
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion carries. Meetings adjourned at 7:55 p.m. We will take a 5-minute break and start at 8 o'clock with the regular board meeting. Thank you. It is 8:01. Calling the meeting to order. Roll call, please. This is for the regular board meeting.
Trustee Pierce,
Present.
Trustee Masek,
Here.
trustee Peterson,
Here.
trustee Bluthart,
Here.
trustee Berman,
Here.
trustee Dominiac,
Here,
Mayor Gardner.
Present. First, the mayoral report. We had 2 resignations from the Parks Board. We are taking the alternates that were appointed previously and putting them into full park positions. We'll probably come here soon to discuss elimination of the alternate position for the Parks Board, since it's the only board that has that. But are they doing the oath online tonight? How are they doing that?
Member Mish, I believe, is she on? Yep.
Okay.
So she'll
Hey,
be.
yep, I'm here.
She'll be taking her oath via Zoom, and member Hartman will be coming in sometime this week to take his oath.
Okay.
So we need to a motion.
Yeah, I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
So moved.
And just to clarify, that's for both appointments?
Yep.
Second.
All right, so I had a motion, trustee Berman, second trustee Peterson. Any discussion about these? Otherwise, I'd ask Lori to swear them in.
Well, roll call first.
Yeah, roll call first, sorry.
Pierce,
Aye.
Masek,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bluthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
yes,
All right, 6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries.
Sam, do you have a camera? You could,
Yep, it, there.
you could please raise your right hand. I, Samantha Mish, having been appointed as member of the Park Commission of the Village of Antioch in the County of Lake, do solemnly swear or affirm that I'll support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, that I will faithfully discharge the duties of member of Park Commission to the best of my ability.
I do.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Sam, congratulations.
Thank you.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you, and I think Chris is coming in to do his, so we appreciate you agreeing to fill that position. All right, we had any citizens wishing to address the board, please raise your hand on Zoom, and we will continue to go through the board meeting, and if anyone raises their hand, Mr. Moran will notify me. We have 2 items on the consent agenda. Do any of the trustees wish to remove any of those items from the consent agenda? All right, if not, we have item number 1, approval of the December 8th, 2020 public hearing and regular meeting minutes as presented, and approval of a resolution authorizing the closure of Route 83 Main Street for the annual Easter Parade on Saturday, April 16th, 2022 at 10:30 a.m. Resolution number 22-01. I need a motion and a second, please.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Motion
Second.
trustee Pierce, second trustee Bluthart. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Masek,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bluthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
yes,
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item on to regular business is consideration to ratify the December 22nd, 2021 payment of accounts payable as prepared by staff in the amount of $419,830.05.
So moved.
Motion trustee Peterson,
Second.
second trustee Berman. Discussion. All right, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Masek,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bluthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
yes,
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item number 4 is the consideration and approval of payments of accounts payable as prepared by staff in the amount of $519,329.91.
So moved.
Oh, second.
Motion trustee Bluthart, second trustee Peterson. Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Masek,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bluthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
yes,
Okay, I am going to, 6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Items 5, 6, and 7 all relate to Grim Road. So I will read each. Excuse me. Okay, so the first item, the first item we're gonna do these individually, and then Tim can touch, Mr. Hartnett, who's here to present, can touch on each item. The first is consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute a professional service agreement with HR Green for Grimm Road and utility extension in the amount of $153,783. Resolution number 22-02. I believe Administrator Keim and Mr. Hartnett from HR Green are both present to discuss.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Want to bring it to the floor first?
Up on motion in a sec.
You want to bring it to the floor? I'll bring it to the floor.
Is it a motion, Trustee Mason?
I brought it to the floor. I'm very rarely I'm allowed to bring, something to the floor. So for discussion.
I'll second his
You
motion.
need a second for discussion.
Yeah, motion, Trustee Mason, second, Trustee Pierce. Discussion?
Are we going to get a presentation from Jim, or what's going on here? I'm all confused.
So the floor for discussion. I brought it to the floor for discussion.
Yes, I plan to do a presentation. It'll just be very brief. If Jim wants to kick things off.
Yeah, thank you, Your Honor. So Grimm Road Engineering on the roadway aspect has proceeded to a point where we're confident that the alignment of the roadway is stable. The next step in this would be to bring the wet utilities in, and tonight on your agenda would be the engineering agreement to design the utility, and that would be the water main to service future uses on Grimm, as well as the sewer. And Tim has a couple of diagrams to show you. We've had plenty of discussions about, how to do this. And we think we found a good way to do this, where Tim will show you how we can provide the sewer utility and eliminate, it would require construction of a lift station. But it would eliminate 2 lift stations that are on our system. And lift stations are things that are maintenance intensive. And we think we've come up with a good scheme to provide sewer utility to future uses on Grimm Road and eliminate and make our sewer system more efficient. So Tim, why don't you take it from there?
And thank you, Jim. Can everyone see the screen? I shared my screen.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, real quick. I know you're very familiar with Grimm Road. If you can follow my arrow, that is the alignment that we feel very confident that IDOT, we've been in contact with them, and Jeff Strzelka's on the line too, but we're very confident and comfortable that that is the intersection location. We've gotten all indications and approvals through IDOT at 173 in Grimm, and then also here at 83 in Grimm. Continue to work with the railroad. There's already a crossing there. So again, confident that that is going to remain. So tonight we're bringing forward, this is just an exhibit of the existing utilities that are currently serving these corridors. The water main heads out to the east, is on the south side of 173, crosses over. There's a water tower there on the north side of 173. Near the Chrysler Dodge Jeep, and then that little water system serves that area. It then continues down 173 and around to a well house located just east of the railroad tracks. And then there are a couple crossings already to serve the area along Route 83. And so we just wanted to share that just so you could kind of see, but this is the alignment. And then I'll click to the proposed utilities, or someone can click for me. So it looks like you're sharing it. And what we're proposing to do, and as Jim said, we spent a lot of time and effort with Jim and Dennis and the team evaluating the current system and how we can not only improve it, but how we can plan for the future. And so I'll cover the water main first. It is pretty straightforward. We're going to connect on to 173. And we're going to come along the new alignment and we're going to connect on to Route 83. And that provides a lot of benefit for water age, water quality. If there's issues around the intersection of 173, 83, and anywhere along these corridors, we now will have additional ways to not only flush the system, but also in case of emergency, if we have a break in one location, we can isolate and then still provide water to various areas along both these corridors. So the water main, a lot, I'll say more straightforward. We do have a railroad crossing. We do have 2 IDOT crossings. And so that's all built into our PSA. So I'm really, I'm excited about it. Again, from an engineering standpoint, I know Dennis will be, and I know his staff will be, as is Jim, but we currently convey all the wastewater from Deep Lake Road, from the Walmart to Menards, down through a deep gravity sewer, and it enters into a pump station right here. It's the GLP lift station. And that is a lift station, which then there's a force main that goes under the creek. Sequoia Creek is right here. And it makes its way all the way over to another pump station known as the Raymond lift station, right out in front in the front yard of Ray Chevrolet. And then from there, the force main pushes underneath the railroad right away, and then it makes its way north through the school property and collects other areas along the way. That is a current restriction limiting this system. And so our new proposal, which we'll be working on hopefully here shortly, eliminates the GLP lift station. It eliminates the Raymond lift station. And anytime we can eliminate a lift station, I believe you currently have over 22 lift stations in the community. Anytime you can eliminate pumps, equipment, controls, things that can go wrong, which it has the screening and the cabinets and the gen sets, et cetera. Anytime we can convert that to gravity, we always try to do that. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to remove the equipment, we're going to remove the controls, and this GLP station will become a sanitary manhole. And the system will then gravity underneath the creek, around Bodycraft, and make its way to a new regional lift station here. One regional lift station with multiple pumps in it set up for the future also. The Raymond lift station will be converted to a sanitary manhole and capture all the sanitary gravity sewer that comes to it. And it will make its way back down southeasterly to the new Grimm Road and join in here. This lift station and this gravity sewer will provide sewer service to this large developable lot east of the tracks. It'll provide sanitary and water to the area adjacent to Bodycraft, a future potential developable lot, as well as the future public works facility located in this area here. The lift station will be located here, and it will then just push a short distance underneath the railroad right away and tie on to Route 83, which has plenty of capacity for now and in the future as it makes its way downtown into the wastewater treatment plant. So Jim and I and Dennis wanted to just share that with you. Elimination of 2 older, I'll say, troubled lift stations that we've been working on and moving along over the years, and now a new state-of-the-art regional lift station will be put in place. So happy to answer any questions on that particular agenda item.
Trustee Pierce.
I got no questions, Your Honor.
Trustee Masek.
So does this hit any lift stations by Deep Lake Road? Am I on? Yeah, I'm on. So by Walmart and whatnot?
No, there are no lift stations to the east.
The Starbucks lift station. That's
no, those are private lifts. There are some private lift stations on the south side of 173, and some of the developments, Aldi, the Starbucks development there, the tire place and Jimmy John's there. They're on private lifts, so those are essentially, not public infrastructure, not something that we can replace. It's gravity, once those developments pump into gravity manholes that are in front of Walmart. It goes gravity all the way to this GLP lift station that's just east of the creek. So this lift station that we're eliminating would be the first lift station to the east, capturing sewer service that services the 173 corridor moving toward Deep Lake.
So those, Jim, those lift stations, the taxpayers never have to pay for if those went bad 30 years from today?
Correct.
Those are up to the business owners?
Correct.
Okay.
Anything else, Trustee Masek?
No.
All right, Trustee Peterson.
I have a question. What's the timeline for this? How long is this going to take?
We're hopeful that by the end of early summer, we'll have alignments. We'll have pretty much all the plan sheets set. And by early fall, we'll be in for permit with the railroad and IDOT. And then we'll be set to bid this. As we discussed back when we were there in October, there were phases of this Grimm Road project that we could do first before the next agenda item where we're going to go for grants and funding. While we're working on that, this certainly can be accomplished where we can do some mass grading of the Grimm Road alignment, and then we could put the utilities in. So our thoughts were to have a bid over the winter 22, 23, and have this under construction in 23 and ready for use. And so 22 design and 23 construct and ready for use by the end of summer, early fall.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Trustee Bluthart.
No comments at this time.
Trustee Berman.
No comments.
Trustee Dominiac.
Just to follow on to Trustee Peterson's question, I think it would be helpful to have a document put together for this contract that shows the timeline so that the board has a way to keep track of the progress reported through the staff. I appreciate that in a macro level what the game plan is, but I think it would be helpful to have a little bit more definition. So I'd request that staff work with HR Green to come up with the ever popular Gantt chart or some other kind of schedule that we can use and refer to see the progress that's being made, and find out if there is not progress, what some of the issues are, so that we collectively have an understanding, especially as we're working with residents and making sure they understand what the timeline is.
Yeah, we'll definitely prepare that now that if we do get approval tonight, that'll be the first order, and we'll add that into the Grimm Road, I'll say, transportation program. But we definitely will give a start to finish, even through construction, and then we'll provide that as we do with our monthly status reports, and then give these exhibits as well as the schedule of what we've accomplished and what the look ahead is, and if there is any challenges, we can certainly identify those and who's going to be working on that. So that's a good add, and we'll definitely do that.
And
Thanks. Go ahead.
I agree with Trustee Peterson and Trustee Dominiac that obviously, the price and the scope I get. I just want to see a little more of a term on them so they're not open-ended for, no finish date. So that would just be my preference too, that we have some kind of a term on these contracts as well.
And I just, if I could, Your Honor, just make another comment. This really isn't specific to this project or to Mr. Hartnett, but I think it's important for us to move forward on projects, but it seems like we're starting to spend a lot of money because we have a lot of projects. And at some point in time, I think it would be helpful for the board to have a clear understanding of what the priorities are and how all of this is getting funded, because there's so many moving parts right now. We've got this big project. We're going to talk in a minute about Lakota. We're going to talk a little bit later about an acquisition of some property. And I just want to make sure that the board is knowledgeable, comfortable, and able to answer questions about where the funding is coming for all of these projects. So that is not specific to this particular project, but I think it's important that we pay close attention to all of these projects.
And Mayor and Board, I will, probably, I can certainly get a schedule that I can send to Jim. And then once he receives that, we review it, then he can sign the contract if that's appropriate. I'm happy to do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion from the board. Any more other discussion regarding this matter? Trustee Pierce?
No, Your Honor.
Trustee Masek?
I got no other discussions.
Trustee Peterson?
I have no more comments.
All right. Trustee Bluthart?
No more comments.
Trustee Berman?
No further comments.
Trustee Dominiac?
None.
Okay, so I know we had the motion and the second calling the item to the floor from Trustee Masek. Do we need a separate attorney? Do we need a separate motion to approve the resolution, or just so I'm make sure I'm doing this correctly?
Yes, I would do a separate motion.
Okay, so I need a motion, and I'm entertaining a motion and a second to approve item number 5, resolution 22-02.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion, Trustee Bluthart.
I'll second.
Second, Trustee Pierce. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, number 6, also relates to Grimm Road. Consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute professional service agreement addendum number 1 with HR Green for Grimm Road in the amount of $62,091, resolution number 22-03. I'd entertain a motion in a second.
I'll make
Move to approve.
Motion, Trustee Pierce. Mary is second.
That's fine.
Yeah. Second, Trustee Dominiac. Administrator Keim, I know this is up for some new discussion as well.
Yes, and Tim alluded to the last presentation that he did about Grimm Road and the availability of funding, grant funding. So there are some programs that it seemed like the board wanted to pursue. It would require us, to be eligible for some of this funding, it would require us to designate this roadway, which is the next item, as an FAU route. But it will require an amendment to the contract. There are costs associated with going after the grant money. It will require extra effort, maybe extra demonstrations. There may be some of this funding will come from federal and state agencies, which require higher level of demonstration, environmental studies, and there are other processes that expand the scope of the project, but it's well worthwhile if we're able to obtain the grant money. I think we'd gladly spend a little bit of money doing some environmental studies if it meant we could obtain potentially millions of dollars to offset our taxpayers' costs that would be associated with this. So that's really what this item is, and Tim can go into it in more detail. But what we're attempting to do is go after money, and hopefully that will be 7-figure numbers, and to help offset the total cost of this project. So Tim, why don't you go ahead from there?
Yeah, real quick. We were before you, Akram Chaudhry, Jeff Strzelka, who's on, and myself, October 27th at a board meeting. And at that meeting, we explained all the grants and funding we feel qualify, or Grimm Road will qualify for. And then we explained that through Council of Mayors, as well, federal, state, as Jim mentioned, some truck access money, some TARP money. There's a bunch of acronyms. I believe we shared that PowerPoint and those exhibits with you back in October. But the bottom line is we're here before you looking to amend so that we can embark. A lot of people queuing up for the funding that's coming out from the feds, which is coming into the state. And so we just want to be ready. And as Jim stated, there are requirements which take additional time and effort, environmental studies. If you're going to use the Fed money, you got to follow their rules and regs. If we were using local funding only like that's what we had planned on originally, we were not going to have to go through some of that, those hoops. But for $62,000, we feel it's well worth it to capture 2-3 million plus. It sets the table for a variety of opportunities. So we'd like to embark on that. And if this is approved, the next item basically is the beginning of that, where you have to designate this route as an FAU route, a federal aid urban route, which connects, but which it qualifies. It's just a process that you go through IDOT at Schaumburg and IDOT in Springfield. And then there's just procedural items that need to get taken care of to have that designated. You currently have FAU routes in the village, Tiffany, Lake, North Avenue. There's several, they're major collector arterial. There are even local collectors that qualify as a FAU route, and it must be designated that in order to submit to Council of Mayors and others, so that it's just, again, part of the rules and regs. If you want to use their money, you follow their process. So that's what this does.
Thank you. Trustee Pierce.
No questions, Your Honor.
All right, Trustee Masek.
Oh, if we gotta get the money, I think we let Tim do what he needs to do.
Thank you. Trustee Peterson.
I have no comments, Your Honor.
Trustee Bluthart.
No comments.
Trustee Berman.
No comment.
Trustee Dominiac.
No comments.
All right, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item is number 7, consideration and approval of a resolution requesting the designation of Grimm Road from Illinois Route 83 to Illinois Route 173 as a federal aid urban route. Resolution 22-04. Motion and a second, please.
So moved.
Motion Trustee
Second.
Peterson, second Trustee Pierce. Any discussion on this, since it was already discussed what this matter was by Trustee Keim? Administrator Keim and HR Green. If not, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hartnett.
Thank you. Have a great
All right,
evening.
next item is item number 8, consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing the village administrator to execute an agreement with Lakota Group for professional design services in the amount of $298,320. Resolution number 22-05. I believe
Move
Kevin
to
is
approve.
on the
Sorry.
phone. Oh, no, I believe Kevin and Administrator Keim. So we a motion from Trustee Dominiac. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Trustee Berman. Administrator Keim, would you like to discuss this item?
Thank you, Your Honor. So as was alluded to at the last meeting where we brought the civil engineering firm Strand on board, the question was asked, will there be other costs associated with this? And the answer is yes. The lead designer in this is Lakota, our landscape architect and planning firm. And, they're really going to drive the boat here as far as, what is designed here, what materials are selected, what is where, the 3D placement of things and how this space relates to the surrounding properties and all of that. And I'm just going to note there will be other sub-consultants here. We may need to bring an architect in for the building design. We may need to bring in mechanical designers for the fountain. It's an embedded fountain potentially, but there may be other sub-consultants that will need to be retained, and those contracts will be brought before the board. But I'm just, making the board aware that, this will not be the last one. These are the major those. We are very fortunate to have very highly qualified firms in Lakota and Strand on this project. I'm very excited to see this project proceed. But as you see, there's a price tag to this. I will let you know that, if and I don't know the exact cost of this project. Originally I was thinking it was 5 to 7. Now I'm thinking it's probably north of that. Let's say it's a $10 million project. Soft costs, which are your designing and engineering, are typically going to run about 10% of the project. So if you did a $10 million project, you can expect to spend about $1 million in soft costs and all the design work. So the numbers we're seeing now are in line with my expectations. A very comprehensive scope has been submitted by Lakota, and Kevin is here on with me. He can go into that in more depth of to what will be happening here. But yeah, as you see, the contract with Lakota to proceed with design development and to bring this conceptual project to a biddable and constructible project. That is what's before you tonight. So Kevin, why don't you go ahead and jump in here and kind of give them a little better idea of what your work will be on this agreement and on this project.
Sure thing. Thank you, Jim. We, typically a design process is 3 phases in the way that we work. And it's first, we've done the conceptual plan. We've got that vision out there, that kind of high level, figuring out the program. What are we doing? Getting people excited. As you know, we went through a whole community process, getting people to weigh in on different options. When we came into this, didn't really know what people wanted. And we've really narrowed that down. But now it's time to really get into the details. And what this scope is, this proposal is for design, development, and construction documents to get to a project that is detailed and can be put out on the street for bids for contractors to build. That process entails us going to and through a steering committee consisting of village leaders, village staff, to really narrow down what we're doing and get into the design details. As Jim mentioned, we're going to be looking at the aesthetics. We're going to be looking at what is the character, what is this design, and really then working hand in hand with Strand as they bring the technical expertise of civil engineering, structural engineering, and those types of things that we're going to need to understand in order to open up that creek and daylight it and build bridges and as we look at the other elements, playgrounds, and all of those great things that everybody's excited about. So that's the process, is going back through a steering committee and refining and detailing out this design.
Thank you. I'm going to ask the trustees to comment, so I'll start with Trustee Pierce.
I'm really, really excited with what we're doing down there. I was a little concerned when I started to hear creep of the price going up tonight. So I want to be very clear that I think we have to be, as Trustee Dominiak said, be very conscious and aware of what we're spending as we transform this village. I mean, this is going to be a transformative couple of years, and there's going to be costs involved. But when we're setting up the plan and coming forth with this, I don't know if I can tolerate mission creep and cost creep unless it's absolutely necessary. So that's all I'll say at this point.
Thank you. Trustee Masek.
What was the figure? Did I hear that right? What was the figure that Jim Keim said?
298,000.
Okay. Was there 10 that I heard? Or
10%, as a rule of thumb, it depends on projects and their complexities.
Okay. The only thing that I'm doing a lot of agreeing with Trustee Pierce tonight. So with the Lakota group, Lakota group's been with us for coming on 2 years. And I just want to see some transparency what they've done since they've been with us. And I just want to see, the cost increase, the cost on paper, that this doesn't become a sewer treatment disaster where we're over budget, that we're getting our monies out of it. Because like I said, Lakota's been here. We've written a check for what, $60,000 to Lakota Group. And have we gotten $60,000 out of Lakota Group so far? I don't know. But you know, we're spending money with no cost. I haven't seen any cost of money spent on paper, and being a fiduciary, I gotta see this on paper, what's spent and what's gonna be spent. I can't do this without having my fiduciary hat on and of saying, I'm not gonna do a blank check because we're already $60,000 into Lakota, and I don't know what they've done to earn us $60,000 so far. So I just want to see more on paper before I give a yes vote.
May I address that? May I address that? So Lakota, we've been with Lakota for about a year now, and they were engaged to do a downtown beautification project, and it included, you know, the community engagement process, which, you know, I'm sure you're aware of, and that work, as well as the overall beautification of spaces in our downtown environment. It's including this project, this piece of land. You know, we kind of prioritized it because it is, you know, I think, a community priority. But it also included some items, you know, pertaining to the parking fields off of Toft and behind Main Street to the east, and streetscapes and other things. And that is almost to conclusion. I think, you know, Kevin and I talked a little bit about, I think we've kind of prioritized this piece of property that we're talking about at the corner of, you know, Depot and Main Street. But there's been a lot of work done, you know, in other areas to define the character of what those spaces, you know, can eventually become. So, you know, I get the line of questioning that the board is coming up with. Where's the money coming from all these? And know that we are redoing the capital plan, and I hope to have a presentation for you very shortly with listing all of these projects, all of the sources of money that we're going to attempt to utilize to pay for all this. And I'll present that plan to you just as soon as I am able to. But we don't know going into a project what it's going to cost. Well, until the design is done, you know, we have some estimates. They're really guesstimates. You know, when this started, you know, I think all of us had maybe a little different vision for what would happen on this property, but no one really knows the cost of a property until the engineering is done and a proper, you know, quantity takeoff can be done, and you know, quantities and materials and all of that can be specified. And that's what's about to happen. We have estimates. You know, there are some estimates out there. But we, you know, if the expectation, I don't think it would be fair to say going into a project before we do any design work, we want to know exactly what it's going to cost. You know, that's really guesswork. But I think the board, you know, the point is well taken that the board needs to be very, very comfortable with, you know, what's the overall plan to pay for all of these, you know, big ticket items that we're involved with and we'll be contemplating in the future. And know that I'm working on a new CIP, hopefully that you will see, you know, maybe not at the next meeting, maybe not by the end of the month, but I'm hoping to bring that to you in February.
I get all that, and I think the ease of that is an Excel spreadsheet. When we purchased the property, what we purchased the property, money spent to date, future expenditures, whether it's a guesstimate, where we stand, and it could be a flow chart into the future. So every one of us get an idea where we are today, where we're going to be tomorrow. So we get an idea where we're going, so we don't get out of budget. So everybody understands the flow chart, because I'm going to lose track of what we spent yesterday, the day before, where we're at. And I think an updated flow chart is not out of line of asking what we spent, what we're going to spend, a guesstimation. An Excel spreadsheet is not out of line asking, because like I said, we've given Lakota some money up front. Now you're asking for $298,000 for more money. And like I said, we gotta know what the end project is. And, you know, I'm a per diem kind of guy, and I like stuff to be on, this is what it's gonna cost at the end. I don't like surprises, you know, so I don't want to be 10%, 20% over budget. I want to be on the dime. So that's what I'd like to see, more of a spreadsheet, time frame, when this is going to get done. I get there's going to be costs, but we owe it to the taxpayers to know exactly what we're spending.
Thank you, Trustee Peterson.
I tend to agree. I think what we need is a budget for the project and a running cost to date and a timeline so that we know we can answer to our constituents, and we can, when people ask us, we are educated in the fact that we know exactly what's going on, and everyone's comfortable with this. We also need to know, you know, an estimate with the future contractors that you mentioned, with people building, different contractors building different elements on this piece of property. We just need to know what we're looking at, what we're, you know, we don't want a crystal ball. We really want to know hard numbers and feel comfortable before we say yes to almost $300,000. That's how I feel. That's all I have to say.
Trustee Bluthart.
I think everyone's making a lot of sense, but I think we've, you know, you're in a position now where we've taken this project to the village with some designs or drawings, conceptual drawings. The village residents seem to be excited about what we presented to them. We've had a rough number presented to us by the admin and these different organizations, and we're at that stage now where we're taking that next step, and this is the necessary next step. And then, you know, once they design this is where we're going to have to make the hard decisions as a board on whether we can afford everything that we hope we can afford to put on that piece of property, or we're going to have to make tough decisions and say we need to do it over phases, or eliminate something, or make changes into the materials, whatever we need to do to fit it into the budget at that time. But I agree with everyone that we need to have a running budget on this based on the estimates that we've been given, and take it from there. And then, you know, so that we can see, you know, every 2 weeks when we meet, that we have an updated schedule in front of us showing not just this project, but I would like to see that on any major projects that we're involved in, the Grimm Road project. If we approve the sale of the purchase of some property and a couple line items down, all these need to be presented to us in a fashion that we could see every 2 weeks and see what we're spending and where we're at budget wise, so that we can make those tough decisions.
All right, thank you. Trustee Berman.
I don't have anything else to add. I agree with the other trustees with what's been said, and I don't have anything to add at this time.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Dominiak.
I think this is a really good discussion, and I'm glad that people are thinking similarly to how I've been thinking about this. You know, I concur with what Trustee Bluthart just said, which is, you know, at the end of the day, we need to get a sense of the total scope and then make a decision on how we're going to move forward. And I think what would be helpful for me, and I appreciate Administrator Kine, that numbers are going to change and costs can change, and, you know, gosh, maybe we'd even save some money, haha. But I would like to see, before I agree to this, and maybe it's next month if you're going to have that, what is the CIP that you're proposing, so we have a better sense of how we're going to pay for all of this, number one. Number two, I somehow figure out, you know, what's a splash pad going to cost? What's the amphitheater going to cost? You know, just some figures so that we can start thinking about, okay, is the splash pad? Yeah, that's terrific. You know what? People would love that. but we can't afford it. And maybe we can't afford it for another 5 years. We need to have a layout of what it's going to take that piece of property where it's at today and get us to our end result. And it's not going to be all done at the same time. And I know you all know that. I'm not saying anything you don't already know, but you know, what's the plan over time to transform that piece of property? And it may very well be that initially, you know, we do some studies on, we're going to daylight the creek and we're going to do, you know, some kind of a little amphitheater and whatever. But at the end of the day, we're not going to execute on any of that for a period of maybe a couple years. But what can we do in the short term so that people can use that property? I mean, I think we have to maybe have another discussion around all of these details before we sign for $300,000 to start a design process. I just feel like I need more information. And particularly, again, like I said, with HR Green, what's the timeline for all of this? Additionally, and Jim, you mentioned we've already paid Lakota for, you know, I mentioned it in a previous board meeting, while we're starting to do some of this work, what are we going to do to implement the downtown work? Are we going to just leave that off to the side and only focus on this piece of property? Is there benefit to doing some of that work in the downtown while we're doing some of the work on this property? I think we need to have a more in-depth discussion about where we're going here with this. And I'm not trying to slow it down because I think it should be slowed down. I think we just need to, because we're all eager to move forward. So it's kind of, that's our tension, is we want to move forward, but we got to do it the right way.
All right, thank you. Trustee Pierce.
Yeah, I really appreciate the input from all the trustees about having a cost flow and a project timeline and stuff of that nature, because we really should be doing that on everything, as Trustee Masick and Trustee Bluthart and several of the other trustees said. My first concern was when it went from, when we initially started discussing this $5 million to then possibly $7 million. And now we very lightly said, maybe $10 million. So I think we need to define what exactly we're spending and what our plan is. And is this step of this $300,000 that definition, or is it just designing things and looking at it? I mean, if this is the part that where everything's designed and we're told this is what it's going to be, this is what it's going to cost, then I can understand voting for it. But this is just another, we're going to do some more group studies, we're going to draw out a couple bridges, we're going to give you some things and give you some options, and then we'll need a couple more $100,000 to give you the price tag and stuff. Then I'm like, I don't know. I can't, that's like dragging me out. And, you know, I don't know if I want to be dragged out. So I want to know where we're at the end of this $300,000. What's the final product I'm going to get if I spend $300,000? Am I getting the design? Am I getting what it's going to cost? Or am I being told, well, these are possible designs, but we got to do some more work?
May I address some of these
Yeah,
comments?
of course. Yeah, of course.
Please.
So I get the consternation. You know, there's been a lot of sentiment to accelerate these projects, and I think you're certainly owed everything you're asking. But some of what you're asking is what will be derived from these contracts. So that, you know, I agree with Trustee Bluthart's, you know, comments. This is the next step to, you know, I heard, you know, I want hard costs, and you know, what are these things? The conceptual piece of this is over. You know, we have some ideas of what this project will cost based, you know, and then just, I guess, go back in time. You know, we had a very short time frame to put it was even a more conceptual plan out there to obtain a grant. You know, it kind of, that started a ball rolling, where even before we had purchased this property, where we had to put some, you know, that's where the, you know, 5 to 7 number came from. That number was really kind of plucked out of the air. And it was really preliminary to allow us to go forward to apply for a grant, which we obtained through the Stormwater Management Commission for 2.75 million. But then as we hired Lakota, you know, we got more definition, we got some concepts, we got community, you know, input, and we got some concepts. And, you know, and that's where, you know, I'm not just arbitrarily saying, well, now I think it's this price. Through that process, we got a little more definition. We don't have, you know, hard costs, but we have some conceptual costs on what some of these items will cost. And, you know, that's where I say maybe that 5 to 7, you know, it was good for getting a grant, and but now that we're getting some more definition, that's where I think we are north of that, you know. So that's why I say we may be in that $10 million range. You know, I don't know. We won't know until we do this design work what the real number is. If there's a number you know, and I get I understand the hesitation to take this next step, but I do think it's necessary that you take this step and authorize this contract to get to be where, you know, you want to be. I would love to have had a, you know, detailed CIP in front of you at this point, but I won't know what's in that CIP until we're done with some of the estimates Lakota will come up with for the downtown beautification. As Trustee Dominiak mentioned, you know, what about the other items? What about the streetscapes? What about these other parking fields? What about all these other things? You know, I'm about to get those numbers. So I'm in a position now for the first time to put more definition into the CIP. There may be some conceptual costs in there, and maybe that's the best we can do at this point, but it will give you more information. I just wasn't in a position before, you know, some of this design work is done and some of the preliminary work was done to really say what, you know, some of these, you know, these are complex projects, and it's, you know, I could guess at a lot of these numbers, but I don't know if that would be the right way to set expectations. But I fully understand what the board is asking for. I'm hearing the same thing from all of you, but I would urge you to move forward with this particular project. I know that there's been, at least I perceive there to be urgency to move this project along. And if we stop now and you know, wait for that CIP to be developed, we are going to be delayed. We're going to essentially stop the progress on this. I know it's not necessarily comfortable. I wish I could make it more comfortable, and I'll do my best to do that going forward as I get information from designers and harder costs and better timeframes and schedules. It is a process. You embark upon a journey when we're talking about these things, and it's not always comfortable. I will tell you, it's not always comfortable. I do a lot of thinking about these things and how do I fit this puzzle together about funding. You all know that I'm not frivolous with how I spend money. I treat the village finances like they're monies that I would spend from my own finances. You know, I can tell you, maybe it will help you a little bit just to know that the funding for this project, let's say it were $10 million. We have 2.75 coming from a grant. We have 1.8 that we can utilize from the TARPA money, that's stimulus from the feds. Potentially, I'm told, potentially we're in a grant, brownfields grant, 500,000. You know, let's say we're able to cobble together 5 million in grant money, and if the project were 10, we'd have to come up with another 5. And these are about the best numbers I can come up with. These are the numbers I use working in my head. And that other 5 would be a bond issue. You know, I think you're aware that we've talked in the past about leveraging the business districts to sell a alternate revenue source bond. We've done some preliminary work with our financial advisor, Baird, based on what the business districts are doing. And that bond issue could be as much as 20,000 or 20 million. More work needs to be done on that. But, you know, so of that, let's say we're able to float a bond this year of 20. You know, that money, you know, 5 of that would go to this project. We're going to talk about a development of a potential village hall property. Again, I don't know what that's going to cost. I know what the property is going to cost, but I don't know what that property is going to cost until I hire designers and execute contracts to spec out and do the design development to figure out what those costs are going to be. I can guess at them, and I'll do that for you. And I think that'll give you more comfort as we proceed through this. But that 20 million bond issue could support this project. It could support the Grimm Road project. Of course, there's grant funding available there. If that were a $10 million project, we could, hopefully cobble together 3 or 4 million in grant money. The utility work could be paid for from water and sewer. There may be some cash expenditure involved there that we could tolerate. Let's say a couple of million there. And then we could use some grant money or bond money to complete the Grimm Road project. So that's how I'm thinking about it, but you don't have the benefit of all the thinking I've done about it, and you deserve that. So I'll do my best to put something together for you, maybe even before I get a complete CIP, which be a larger document. Quite an effort goes into development of a CIP. But I think what I'm going to do based on this conversation is put together, just some basic, costs and sources and uses. Basically would be a source and use demonstration of the projects. Where the money may be coming from, and what it's going to be used for. And I think that's what you're asking for.
Yeah, Your Honor.
Yes, Trustee Dominiak.
Yeah, I'm wondering if it doesn't make sense. Jim, I appreciate your explanation, and as the numbers are flying around, my thought was it would be great to have all that put together for us. So thank you for offering that. I'm wondering if it doesn't make sense to just table this for a couple of weeks so that, Jim, you can put together, I think what we're all looking for is, here's all the projects, here's the projected costs, and I understand that they're not all going to be in concrete. And then here's the potential sources of revenue. So we have a better sense of what all of these projects are going to cost, and then some modicum or some basic timeline. Like I said, with this property, we're not going to do everything overnight. So if it's going to be a 5-year project, it's a 5-year project. But what's the progress? And that's how we can communicate to the residents. What's going on with Grimm Road? What's going on with the Boylan property? What's going on, with all of these things? I would feel more comfortable if we could just give this a couple of weeks for you to pull together more data. But that's my need, and I think I'm speaking to what the rest of the board says, but I certainly welcome their comments.
Well, I got one comment. Jim, you're as valuable as what's on paper. So if you're crossing the road and something happens and your car hits you, it's not on paper. Whoever takes over may not know what's going on. That's what needs to be on paper, so everybody knows where the grant money's coming from. So everybody knows where. Hopefully that doesn't happen, God willing. So we all know what's going on because we don't have the grant money, where that's coming from, where this is coming from, what you just talked about. It just needs to be on paper so all of us understand it. So if God forbid that doesn't happen, hopefully it doesn't. So everybody understands. So we got some type of format where we're headed to down the road for a 2-year plan, 5-year plan. So we're getting this grant money. So if someone asks us, we're not sitting there saying, it's just a blank check, $10 million. What do you mean, $10 million? So we don't look like a bunch of fools just writing blank checks. So we got a plan. So this is our plan. We're getting grant money from here, potentially. We're getting this potentially. So it's all on paper. So if something did happen, so we all got it on paper. So everything's planned. And I get some of it's going to be potentially a guesstimation of what the costs are, because everything in you and HR Green might do a good job at coming close to the guesstimation, but at least there's a plan. The plan's got to be there. So, and we don't have anything on, I never saw anything. Well, this is where the grant's coming from. This is how the grant's put in place. None of us got that. So that's, I think, what we're asking for. That's what I'm asking for to get the votes.
Hey, Jim, just real quick, I just want to make a point. This, I'll just say $300,000. whether this project was a $4 million project or a $10 million project, we're going to incur this $300,000 to develop and engineer and design this project, correct?
More or less, yeah.
More or less. I mean, what we're, everyone on this board has been talking about this Pittman property for years. Everyone's been talking about needing to do something on this property. We spent all this money talking about beautifying downtown, getting this done. Now, when we're at the next stage, which is actually designing it and putting a price to it and coming up with numbers that we can go to the people on and say, listen, this is what it's going to actually cost. And this is what we're going to need to do. We have to spend this money to do that. Now everyone wants to pull back and say, no, we can't do this. We want hard numbers first. Well, you're putting the cart before the horse here. You need to have them do this in order to give us options so that we can come up with a pricing and how we pay for it and everything else. And that might be where we get this project designed and engineered and priced out and we go, it's going to be a 5-6 year project. We're going to do so much a year, or we're going to have to delay something or not do something. But we need this stage, and delaying it a couple weeks, I don't have a problem with, Trustee Dominiak, but I don't see why we would keep pushing this back, and because this is the next stage to get this project moving. If we're not gonna move forward on this project, and you guys are having second thoughts about wanting to do this project, then say that. But we're gonna have to spend these dollars at some point before we get hard numbers.
All right. Thank you, Brent. And
No
I'm gonna,
one's having second thoughts. It became a $5 million to a $10 million project. We just want it in writing.
all right. So I'm gonna
Spend money.
let Trustee Peterson go, then Trustee Berman, and then probably see if we're done with the discussion on this, and so we want to go with this next. But Trustee Peterson.
I think just to stay, feel comfortable in order to vote for this, we just want a map as to, on this map, we want a timeline. We want what the estimated costs are, what this money is going to be spent on, so we feel comfortable voting it and giving it to them.
That's a good line.
And I think that's basically what we want. We don't want to be in the dark. We want to know what's going on, and we want to know when it's going on. And I have no problem with taking the next step, and I certainly don't want to go backward. We want to go forward, and the entire town wants to go forward. We just want to be sure when we spend this kind of money, what we're spending it on. That's it. We need a timeline. That's all I have.
Thank you, Trustee Berman.
Yeah, I feel that if we have to wait and push back a couple of weeks to ensure that each of us has, a solid idea of what that money is being spent on. I mean, we owe it to the people of this town to be able to say that, yes, we did indeed understand why this number is what it is. And I think that there was so much that was spoken about. I believe Trustee Masick had stated at the beginning in regards to this, close to 300,000. I may be wrong, but I think that he was also talking about having, a breakdown, kind of go through the fine tooth comb so that we can understand and justify why we're spending that money. So,
All right. So before I ask for a roll call, are there any other motions that are going to be made?
I'd make a motion, a subordinate motion to table this for 2 weeks definite to the next meeting.
I second that.
All right, so I have a motion to table this for 2 weeks to the January 26th meeting. I have a motion from Trustee Pierce, a second from Trustee Masick. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
No.
Berman,
yes.
Dominiak.
Yes.
5 voting yes, 1 voting no. Motion carries. It's tabled to the 26th.
Can I make one more comment, Your Honor?
Sure.
I heard some commentary there about, harder costs and definite timeframes and putting things on paper, and I'll do that, but I am not going to certify those timeframes or costs because it's going to be some guesswork, and I'm just going to let you know. If you want absolutes, that's a whole different level of investigation and quite frankly design. I agree with Trustee Bluthart's comments. I agree also with, you need that roadmap too. So, and I'll put something on paper, but I'm not going to certify that those are hard costs or definite timeframes.
Your Honor. Your Honor.
Yes, Trustee Dominiac.
Yeah, just one last comment. Jim, I understand what you're saying, and I'm supportive of that. And I'm not looking at this in isolation. I think from my perspective, I'm trying to get a sense of all these different projects. So again, I appreciate your comment that it can't be hard costs and it can't be hard timelines, because things do change. I've worked with enough engineers to know that over my career, but just to give us some picture of all these exciting projects that we have going, and we need to continue to push forward. It's just give us something so that we have on paper what you have in your head. Thank you.
Just trust me, I'll get it all done for you.
Thank you.
Budget. Just trust me.
By Friday. Thank you. So next item on the agenda is thanks for jumping on, Kevin. Next item is consideration and approval of an ordinance approving a license agreement for the Village of Antioch, Illinois, and the Antioch Lions Club. Ordinance number 22-01-01. I'd entertain a motion and a second waiving the second reading.
So moved.
Motion Trustee Peterson. Second Trustee Pierce. Jim, I don't know. I know this has come to the board before. I don't know if you want to give a brief presentation, discussion.
It's really just, we're following up on the conversation the Lions Club had with us about the Standard Oil building and their use. That's the agenda item, correct?
Yes, correct. License agreement, yes.
It's a license agreement to allow the Lions Club some comfort in knowing that if they make improvements to this building, that they have formal authorization to use this building for storage of their equipment and materials, largely for the chicken barbecue that they annually do, and which is highly successful and popular event in our community. So it's nothing different than really what happens today. It's been a handshake agreement, I guess. But the Lions Club would feel better with this license because they've offered to help fund improvements to this building and to the park, and they have in the past, quite frankly. The Lions Club Pavilion, they've made donations to the pool. They paid for half of the newer pavilion to the north. So we're just kind of continuing on this path with a formal license.
Okay, thank you. Any discussion? Trustee Pierce?
No, Your Honor.
Trustee Masek?
Yeah, this is for the attorney. As a Lions Club member, I don't think I can vote for this. Choose myself. Would you agree? Yes or no?
Oh, you're on mute. Sorry, you're on mute.
What?
I'm sorry about that.
As a Lions Club member, because I've got interest in being a member, 25-year member, should I recuse myself of voting on this, or?
You can.
Huh?
Yes.
Would it be, it's in my interest to recuse myself, because we get two people that are Lions Club members.
Yep.
Sure.
And if I recuse myself, then the vote would go to the majority, correct?
Correct.
Right. Yep. Thank you. Trustee Peterson?
I have no comments.
Trustee Bluthart?
No comments. Something seems to be freezing up on me and others on here. I don't know if can you hear me at all?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if everything's because everything's locking up on me for some reason.
Luckily, we have had no freezing on our end, so everything's
all right. Very good.
All right. Trustee Berman?
No comments.
Trustee Dominiac?
No comment.
Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Even though I'm a Lions member, I am going to vote yes.
Masek,
I recuse myself. Being a Lions Club member.
Peterson,
Yes.
Bluthart,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
Yes.
All right, 5 voting yes, 1 recusal, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is item number 10, consideration and approval of an ordinance approving a purchase and sale agreement for certain real property located at the address commonly known as 935 Skidmore Drive in Antioch, Illinois, in the amount of $1,175,000. Ordinance number 22-01-02. I'd entertain a motion and a second waiving the second reading.
I make that motion to approve waiving the second reading.
Motion by trustee Dominiac,
Second.
second by trustee Peterson. Oh. All right, Administrator Keim.
Sorry, I'm having some glitches here. Which agenda item are we talking about?
So we're on the
Medical
Skidmore
building.
Drive property. Oh, we lost him for a second. Tried to come off and re-enter the room.
have we lost trustee Bluthart as well?
I'm here. I'm hearing you, and I think you can
Okay.
hear me, but my video froze up.
Yeah, sometimes if you turn the camera off, it works better. I know this, but not that we don't like seeing you, but yes, it sometimes glitches.
You have a nice,
I resemble that remark, Mayor.
trustee Bluthart, you have a very nice still photo in your thing.
Is Administrator Keim back? He may need to turn off his camera too if it's. He may need, is he Administrator Keim back on?
He's there, right?
I don't see him out. He's not responding. So sometimes maybe he needs to turn his camera off so the sound.
I think we need to just vote on it.
There he
There he
is.
is.
Oh, there he goes.
There he
Can you
was.
guys hear me?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
about, yeah, we can hear you with the camera off.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So the next item is the purchase of authorization to enter into a contract to purchase property on Skidmore. This would be the Centegra building. In executive session, you guys have discussed this as an acquisition for future use, potentially as a village municipal facility, possibly village hall, parks building, combination thereof, possibly other uses. So this would be the next step in publicly authorizing the village to enter into a contract to acquire this property.
Thank you. Discussion, trustee Pierce.
We've discussed tonight Grimm Road, which is probably gonna be $10 million. We've discussed tonight, now we find out that the Pittman property is gonna be $10 million. We've been told, well, we know what we're gonna spend to buy this property, but we don't know how much we're gonna spend to renovate it, make it an actual village hall. I think the Pittman property is our priority and the Grimm Road's our priority. I think we've got other priorities than spending $1.1 million on a future village hall with an unknown cost of renovating it. So I'm going to be a no vote tonight.
Thank you, trustee Masek.
No, I think this is a purchase that's well needed. We're getting a deal on a building that's for what we're spending on it. We're getting 5 times the value. Something that we've kind of outgrown our building for what it's worth. This is long overdue. Other villages have taken where they've got new village halls. I appreciate trustee Pierce's comments, but this is a deal of a century where we're getting a potentially $5 million building for $1 million. So I'm all for this building. I'm a yes vote on this building. There's going to be extra costs in renovation to make it a village hall building. So hopefully those upgraded costs will be on the potential sell of the old village hall. So those upgrades will be kind of a washout. So hopefully everything washes out and it's going to be equal on the cost basis. So yes.
Thank you, Trustee Masek. Trustee Peterson.
And I agree with Trustee Masek on this. This is a good purchase. The village does need this building. It's in a perfect spot. It aligns with our other property. It's the right size. And it does free up this building for potential sale. So not a building like this doesn't come up very often, and the location is perfect. So I am a yes vote on this, and I'm real excited about it.
All right, thank you, Trustee Bluthart.
I think this is a golden opportunity. You know, we have, like you mentioned, the Parks building, which is not in the best of shape. We've talked about the Village Hall and the maze of offices, and I was being a new member of the board and having to walk through that building, I'm still lost every time I go in there. This gives us an opportunity to create a village campus. You know, with the money we're going to be spending on Pittman to renovate that, with a new village hall back there, the potential development of the old Village Hall property, which will benefit downtown and bring more business and everything there. I think it's a win-win, and I'm 100% yes vote on this.
Thank you, Trustee Berman.
I think this is a good opportunity. However, I do have a little bit of worry about what could possibly be needed to, what's needed to renovate, or if there's other issues. But as Trustee Masek said, with the price that we would be purchasing this for, and hopefully with whatever issues would arise, that would be offset with the deal that we're getting. So,
Trustee Dominiak.
I support this 100%.
All right, any other discussion on this item? I believe this needs a 2/3 vote, so.
Yes, Attorney, will I be calling on the mayor for this vote as well?
Yes. Yes, the mayor should vote on it.
All right, thank you. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
No.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
yes.
Dominiak,
Yes.
Mayor Gardner.
Yes. 6 voting yes, 1 voting no, motion carries. Next item on the, this should be a quick one. Next one, consideration approval of an emergency ordinance ratifying the mayoral declaration of emergency relating to coronavirus, ordinance number 22-01-03. I'd entertain a motion and a second waiving the second reading.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have Trustee Dominiak's motion waiving the second reading, second Trustee Pierce. Roll call, please.
Pierce, Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiak,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item, consideration and approval of a resolution regarding the release and non-release of certain minutes of executive sessions, resolution number 22-06. I'll take a motion in a second, please.
So moved.
Motion Trustee Bluthart,
Second.
second Trustee Berman. Any discussion on this item? Trustee Pierce?
No.
Trustee Masek?
No discussion.
Trustee Peterson?
No.
Trustee Bluthart?
No.
Trustee Berman?
No.
Trustee Dominiak?
No comments.
Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiak,
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Next item is item number 13, consideration of a resolution authorizing the chief of police to enter into an intergovernmental agreement with the Lake County State's Attorney's Office, resolution number 22-07. I'd entertain a motion in a second.
Moved.
Second.
Motion trustee Masek, second trustee Berman. Chief Gutchow.
Yeah, so just very briefly, we've been a member of the Lake County State's Attorney's Cyber Forensic Lab since 2016 when it was established. Since that time, we have seen no increases in their cost. As you can imagine, with the evolution of technology since that time, the state's attorney's costs to operate that lab have gone up significantly. The technology necessary to get into locked iPhones and Android phones, the cost have skyrocketed as technology has evolved. So this is a agreement, a renewal of our partnership with the state's attorney, remaining committed to participating in their cyber lab through an intergovernmental agreement with a cost of, I believe it was just under $5,000 per year moving forward. We're currently paying $1,500, so it's a substantial increase. We are classified as a high-end user due to the number of cases that we have to refer to the cyber lab. So that's the reason behind the sharp increase.
All right, thank you. Discussion, trustee Pierce.
No discussion, Your Honor.
Thank you. Trustee Masek.
Now, high-end user means we're using them because we got problems. So this is a good thing. So I'm in support of this. So yes.
Trustee Peterson.
Yes,
No.
I support it.
Okay.
I support it.
Trustee, it's getting late. Trustee Bluthart.
No comment.
Trustee Berman.
Yes.
Trustee Dominiac.
No comments.
All right, roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luther,
Yes.
Berman,
Yes.
Miniac.
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no, motion carries. Last item is consideration of a business incentive grant for a command service center located at 315 North Depot Street. I have Mr. Garrigan to present, please.
Yes, thank you. Yes, this matter comes before the board on our business incentive grant. As you recall, a number of years ago, we did approve a business incentive grant program. The applicant is Command Service Center at 315 North Depot Street. They are requesting specifically $20,000. They have a proposed $44,420,000 project to rehabilitate an existing barn. As you recall, or maybe you don't recall, the site was originally the Antioch lumber yard. This old wood building has seen extensive deterioration over a number of years. They're asking for a $20,000 business incentive grant to help subsidize the re-siding of this building, along with some additional insulation to make the building a more viable structure. As you all know, whenever we have a business incentive grant program, there's a series of criteria. Staff did go through the criteria, which I highlighted in my staff report. Very briefly, going through my criteria, in lieu of scoring it, I just provided a narrative about some of the concerns that staff has as it relates to this proposed incentive. Obviously, the property does not have high visibility. It's generally not visible from Main Street. There continues to be a question from staff's perspective of the overall impact on sales taxes and the positive impact in drawing additional people to the downtown. If you want me to, I can go through the criteria, but the criteria and staff's different findings are incorporated in the staff report. So staff is generally looking for the input from the village board on the applicant's request. The applicant, I believe, is actually here this evening to answer any questions you may have. I'll conclude my staff report.
So this is a little bit different because there's really no motion because it's an either or question. So I guess we'll do discussion and then I'll entertain a motion on the either or recommendation. Is what I'm assuming, unless I'm told otherwise. So Trustee Pierce, any discussion on this matter?
I have a couple points. One, I do believe that if I look at the criteria of what the economic incentive program is for exterior renovations. And is this exterior renovations, Mr. Garrigan?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is an exterior renovation.
So why do you rate it as not visible? It's because it's behind the building or the building behind the building, or?
Well, as you recall, the criteria has visibility along some of our main arterials and some, regards to our main commercial corridors. So this is a secondary, I mean, it's obviously visible from Depot Street, but, consistent with some of the other grants that have been requested, when we traditionally staff has rated a little lower scores for buildings which are what I call secondary, i.e. off the beaten path from our main commercial corridors, which are Route 83 and 173. And maybe even Lake Street or Orchard Street to some extent are secondary streets too. But again, this is staff's perspective. As you well know, which we've highlighted, it's the board's prerogative to basically concur or have a different perspective from staff.
My perspective is that we're going to be spending upwards of maybe $10 million in that general area, trying to make it all look beautiful. That maybe we should be considering something that's just like right next door to that $10 million and how it looks. So that would be my perspective on this one. I also want to take this opportunity to mention the fact that since you mentioned the main corridors of Lake Street and stuff, I've recently been driving down Lake Street, and there's one building on there that actually is looking pretty darn nice these days and is a much larger improvement than what it was, which is the First Chicago building. And at some point we turned them down because they didn't rate very high. And after seeing what they did and where they're located, I think we need to go over our criteria a little bit and maybe discuss with the owner of that building, him possibly coming back here, because he's made that area look much more improved. So I'd like to see this command center get their approval, and I'd like to see the First Chicago building get reevaluated. That's my.
Thank you. Trustee Mason.
Well,
Mike, before we go on, I just have a question. I see the application and the estimate. Was there any rendering of the building, a drawing or anything?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, I just want to see if I missed it. All right, thank you. Trustee Mason.
Oh, that's the point I was going to bring up. There's no rendering of the building. There's nothing in here. I don't have the scoring of it. I'm going to agree with Trustee Pierce on the Bellucci building. That was rated a 2. I don't know what it was rated. I don't read the Wall Street Journal. They treat seniors. That building is fantastic. They get retail space behind there that they're going to do a secondary improvement on those back buildings. He was turned away because they were scored low. I just don't understand the scoring. This building, I don't even know how he can approve it because there is no drawings of typically what we see when we approve this. If anything, this should be tabled until we could see, what the buildings look like. This shouldn't even be brought to the board because we have no before and after pictures. I don't see a score in here. For Chicago building, I agree with Trustee Pierce, that should be brought back because that is a beautiful building, and we missed the ball game on that building, and that was a disservice because that's a service that takes care of seniors. That's a service right now during COVID, and I brought that up and I was looked over. That's fine. You guys voted me. That's fine. But for this building, I think this should be tabled. I got no renderings. I got no nothing. So I would have to be a no vote just because of what I don't have in my packet. So and if this is going to be voted on the way it's in my packet, I'm going to be a no vote unless there's drawings. So I would suggest maybe bringing us back to another meeting if it's going to be approved, because I have nothing. I mean, zero. So that's what I got to say.
I agree with Trustee Basic. I don't know if this is proper, but I would entertain a motion in a second to table this to get a rendering, because I don't know how we can discuss this or approve or disapprove it without a full plan. So
Yeah,
that
it's actually embarrassing that this is in the packet, that staff put this in our packet. Should never be in our packet. This is embarrassing that whoever put this in our packet without the drawings
I'm
should
gonna,
never been here.
I'll let the trustees, I'll go around, but Trustee Peterson.
I just want to say that I actually went and looked at the building. There wasn't a rendering, so I went and looked at it. But I agree it should be tabled until we actually can and get more information here. But as of right now, I do support giving him the money. And I also agree with the family medical building, Jason Bellucci's building. I agree with that. I think that should be looked at again. And I make a motion to table this until we can get more information on it in a good run.
I have a motion, Trustee Peterson, to table this matter for 2 weeks.
Yes.
Second from Trustee Pierce. Roll call, please.
Pierce,
Aye.
Mason,
Yes.
Peterson,
Yes.
Luthart,
Gonna vote yes to table, but I would have liked to have made my comments like the other trustees did before we voted on it, but that's fine.
Berman,
Yes.
Dominiac,
I echo trustee Bluth's comment, but I will vote yes to table it. But it would be nice to have a conversation about it.
Yeah, yes to table.
Okay. So now that we have tabled it, I will still, for the record, give any trustee that wasn't able to speak on the matter, their turn to speak, and then we'll obviously be talking about this in 2 weeks again. So, Trustee Bluthart.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron. Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to see more in the packet in regards to drawings like we've seen on the other presentations as well. But I agree very strongly with Trustee Pierce that we're spending quite a bit of money to create, and we just approved today buying another building in that general area, and we're going to be spending quite a bit to develop that property adjacent to this. And one bad building can spoil the view from everywhere. We have a beautiful park, and you look over and see a horrendous building that it could just ruin it for people. So once again, I support tabling it, but I believe that with the proper drawings and everything else, that this is a project we should definitely support, because we want to, we're going to have a lot of people coming into that area over the next few years, and we want our village to look as good as it can.
Thank you, Trustee Berman.
I hope I can say this as far as in regards to the scoring. It's not so much about, well, I think we should table it, but I think it's an issue hearing multiple trustees state that they don't understand the scoring. We need to understand that in order to do our job of approving or not approving, and to make it fair to these businesses that are asking for this.
Sure.
So.
Thank you, Trustee Dominiac.
I have a couple things to say on this matter. First of all, I think we potentially are going to open up a can of worms if we start to give out incentive grants to buildings that don't meet the criteria of why those grants started. And maybe we need to revisit that, because those grants were designed to improve the areas that are heavily trafficked. That's number one. Number two, yes, we're going to spend a lot of money to improve that property, but if you look at the overall plan for that property, at some point in time, that's a redevelopment area. So should we be spending the money to fix a building that potentially is going to end up not being there in the once that area is being redeveloped? And then the only other thing is that going back to family medical, I believe that was scored low for the reasons that we all had approved the scoring criteria for. But I do remember the former mayor suggesting to the building owner that he come back with better renderings because he didn't have professional renderings, and the owner did not come back. I don't know if it's a good idea to revisit that, because that opens up another can of worms for people who have been denied in the past as well. But perhaps if it's true that he's going to look at making some improvements on the rest of his property, that we use that as a consideration for making a decision on that if he comes forward looking for money for that. So again, I'm fine with tabling this, but I will continue to not be a vote for this because it, to me, flies in the face of what we're trying to do with these business incentive grants.
Thank you. All right, administrator report. Jim, do you have anything else?
Nothing further tonight, Your Honor.
All right, thank you. Anything on the village clerk's report? All right, thank you. Other than the written reports previously received, any trustee reports that they'd like to make? Trustee Pierce.
I just want to real quickly mention that our Deputy Chief Norman Johnson is going to Northwestern University School of Police Staff and Command starting Monday to learn a whole lot about command level functions and being a better commander. So I wish him luck, and it's always good to have our police officers well trained. Additionally, when the mayor touched on it this morning, I can't say enough of how much our police department has done over the last couple of weeks as they've dealt with holidays, weather, and COVID issues, and being severely undermanned, and the officers doing double shifts, officers coming in early, officers staying late. As the mayor mentioned, the chief even did a patrol. In fact, he took a picture of my car parked on the road. When it shouldn't have been, but I was out of town. I wasn't expecting the snow. So I want to, stress we really need to be appreciative not only of our police officers and the work that they're doing, but this last couple months has been really hard on all of our staff, and we should be appreciative of them also.
Thank you. Any other trustees?
Yeah, I
Trustee Mazik.
Yeah, I think Public Works did a fantastic job. We got one email, which I contacted that resident on some snow plowing. He's been a friend of mine for 20 years. So that got resolved pretty quick. Dennis did a great job with his team. The one thing I will constantly bring up is Peterson Park, because it's near dear to my subdivision, is we got to figure out a way to camera that subdivision. That's a dumping ground that has to get constantly cleaned up. Public Works. It's a dangerous place. The other subdivision next to New Haven figured out how to camera their front entrance for cars coming in. We got to figure out, they figured out how to camera their entrance. We should camera that to protect that park. If contractors constantly dump garbage down there on a daily basis, kids can't go down there and play. You got a shed down there that's basically bolted up. It's a dark area down there. Someone is really going to get hurt or killed. And we got to figure that. We got to figure it out. It's just a bad area down there. If anybody's been down there, I welcome you to go down there at dusk. It's dangerous. And I welcome you to go down there and look at all the garbage that's thrown down there, mattresses. And just because someone says we get the dumpster for free, in the Parks Department complains about it every time. And they say, well, we get the dumpster for free. What does it matter? Well, it does matter. It's a park. We shouldn't have garbage dumped in our parks. We got to camera that park. It's our kids. We deserve it to our kids, our families, to protect our people. That's got to be cameraed, either camera it up or close the park. One of the two. It should be easy enough to get Ray over there, figure out a camera. Red Wing, they figured out how to camera their front entrance remotely. We should be able to figure out how to camera that. We spent some money today. It's not that hard to camera that location if Red Wing can figure out how to camera license plates going in and out. That's my report.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, on that, I would take no executive session tonight, so I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Peterson, second, Trustee Berman, second by everybody. The roll call, please.
Pierce.
Aye.
Mason.
Yes.
Peterson.
Yes.
Luthart.
Yes.
Berman.
Yes.
Dominiac.
Yes.
6 voting yes, 0 voting no. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned at 9:40 p.m.